the broadcast for this meeting by the public YouTube channel, Braintree District Council Committees. This channel has been set up to make sure that anyone can observe our democratic meetings. Please therefore remember that this meeting can be watched anywhere at any time by anyone with internet access. There is a delay between the meeting and the broadcast on the YouTube channel of approximately 30 seconds. There's also subtitles on YouTube. These are auto-generated by the YouTube channel. They are not the responsibility of Braintree District Council, nor can we ensure the accuracy of those subtitles. Webcasting officer, please can you commence the broadcast on YouTube and confirm, please?
I am, yes, we are live now, thanks.
Thank you very much. Good evening and welcome to this meeting of full council on Monday, the 27th July 2020. Before we commence with the proceedings, I can confirm that the council has adopted some basic etiquette rules for its remote meetings. For ease of reference, these are: please only speak when the chairman invites you to do so. Members, please let the chairman know that you wish to speak through the chat function. The chairman will introduce speakers in the order that the request to speak has been made, unless there is a point of order at which we will give way. Please minimise all your distractions while you are in the meeting. Members, you are requested to mute your microphones when not speaking and consider turning off your video to reduce the interference on the auto feed. Please bear in mind that there may be a small lag between speaking and other attendees to this meeting hearing you, so please bear this in mind and don't attempt to cross speech with other members. When referring to reports, please quote the page number and the paragraph numbers so your colleagues can follow your point of inquiry. We do not have any private items for this agenda. However, members are reminded that it's their responsibility to make sure that their venues and connections are private. If you lose connections at any point to this meeting and are unable to rejoin, please call the meeting facilitator. Please only use the chat function for the purpose prescribed for requesting to speak or for a point of order. The chat function is subject to the access to information regimes of FOI, EIR, and is also subject to data protection, rules of defamation, and the Council's Code of Conduct. For this meeting, to help members follow the agenda items will be posted in the chat function by the meeting facilitator. For this meeting, councillors are identified with a prefix of CLLR before their name, with the exception of the chairman and vice chairman of the council. There are officers in attendance and they are identified with a prefix of officer before their name. Officers will only speak when invited to do so. There is a minute taker and 2 meeting facilitators for this meeting. I can confirm that the meeting is quorate with all the members required in attendance. I will now hand over to the chairman, Mrs. Kilmartin. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Councillor Angela Kilmartin and I am the chairman of this council, and I will be chairing this meeting of the full council. I'd like to open this virtual meeting of the council by welcoming members and the public who are viewing this meeting via the council's YouTube channel. I'm being assisted by a meeting facilitator who will help me identify when people want to speak and manage the notifications through the chat function. So now, members, I obviously can't see all of you. There's a lot of you. So I ask that you use the chat function to indicate if you wish to speak or raise a procedural point. Can I now clarify that during this meeting, when asked for agreement, silence will be taken as assent on those items to note. Where a vote is required, these will be conducted using the poll function. And finally, members, we do have an urgent item of business for tonight's meeting. The report, Phased Reopening of Leisure Provision, was published and circulated to all members last Friday. We will consider this item after agenda item 10, and then we'll continue on to agenda item 11. So thank you very much, members. I will proceed to the first item of business, which is apologies for absence. Now, I've received apologies from the following councillors. I've got an apology from Councillors Hume and Monday, but I think Councillor Ramage and Unsworth are here. Have I still got apologies from Hume and Monday?
Chairman, they are standing apologies for Councillor Hume and Councillor Monday. They are present in this meeting.
Okay.
You have apologies from Councillor Jenny Sandham.
Thank you. So there's 3 who are absent.
No, Chairman, you have 1 member who is absent by way of apologies, and that's Councillor Jenny Sandham.
By way of apology, and okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Any further apologies to note given by members? No, no. So if there are no more apologies, I'm going to proceed to item 2, which is the minutes of the previous meeting. So for this item, I'll be seeking your agreement, and silence will be assent. I'll have to ask it this way. Do any members have any objection to the approval of the minutes as an accurate record of the meeting of full council, which we held on the 1st of June, 2020? Any objections to those minutes? Please indicate. No objections? No. Silence? I have. Thank you, members. Your silence is agreement that the minutes are an accurate record. No one wishes to speak. So we're moving on to item 3, which is declarations of interest. Now, I seem to have quite a lot. Do members have any disclosable pecuniary interest, other pecuniary interest, or non-pecuniary interest that they wish to declare this evening? If you do, please state the item and the nature of your interest. Please indicate you wish to speak in the chat function. And I'm going to have Councillor Butland first. Councillor Butland, will you declare your interest, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I declare an interest, a non-pecuniary interest in item 8, the local plan, as this council's representative on the board of North Essex Garden Communities Limited. And I also declare a non-pecuniary interest in the item relating cabinet reports to council, when I will make reference to things which will also involve the South East Local Enterprise Partnership Limited, of which I am also a board member. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. Now I have Councillor Abbott. Can you declare your interest, please, Councillor Abbott?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Quite a few, I'm afraid. I am a member of, I post to the Better for Braintree Facebook page, which has covered topics around the local plan, and I also know, but in no more than the normal sense, Rosie Pearson, who is the mover of the petition we're going to hear tonight. I am the publisher of the Green and Independent Facebook page, which has discussed the local plan. I am also a member of Essex County Council, which has been involved with the local plan, and I am a member of the Essex County Council Climate Change Commission, and I will be raising a question about the Climate Change Working Group of Braintree District Council later on. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Abbott. Now Councillor Tom Walsh is next.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Briefly, it's a non-pecuniary interest in relation to items 5, 8 and 6, and any I've missed. I confirm that I know Rosie Pearson and Matt O'Connell and maybe 1 or 2 others in cause, but I'm not a member of cause. I'm also a member of the R4BDG Facebook group, and I'm connected, of course, with the Green and Independent Facebook group, although I don't regularly post to either. Thank you.
Thank you. Now Councillor Paul Thorogood.
Yes, yeah, with again agenda item number 6, I do know.
Can you come a bit nearer your microphone, please?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Hello? Go on.
Yeah, agenda item number 6. I do know Listen through her campaign work with Cause, which I believe now has been disbanded. I have access to the Better Braintree Facebook page, which I Pearson runs, and I follow Mrs. Pearson on Twitter.
Done. Thank you very much. Councillor Michelle Weeks. Councillor Weeks, you have an apology to make?
Sorry. Yes, I have a non-pecuniary interest. I am a Facebook member of Better Braintree, and obviously I'm a G&I member.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beavers is next.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to declare an interest, non-pecuniary interest, in Mrs. Rosie Pearson, as I know Rosie, in a personal capacity no more than in my role as local councillor. I'd like to declare an interest that I'm the administrator for Better Braintree Together Facebook page, and also the Residents for Braintree District Facebook page, and I'm also a member of the Green and Independent Facebook page. I'd like to declare an interest in any item relating to Essex County Council, as I am a member of Essex County Council. I'd also like to declare an interest on a page at 130. There's a reference to the East of England LGA, and I am associated with South East employers who do some contract work occasionally with the East of England LGA. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Bob Wright. Councillor Wright.
Yes, sorry, I'll just demute to my. Hello, Madam Chairman. I'd like to declare a non-pecuniary interest, so I've been in the same meeting and know of Mrs. Pearson, but I've not engaged with her, and I'm also on the Green and Independent Facebook.
Thank you.
This is a non-pecuniary interest.
Thank you very much. Councillor Answorth.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. In addition to those I sent through to governance earlier, I'd like to declare a non-pecuniary interest, as I'm a member of the Green and Independent Facebook page and an administrator on the Residents for Braintree District page. I think it would also be appropriate to ask guidance from the councillor from governance as to declaring these Facebook pages. I think we've had it once in a meeting, but I think it would be nice to ask if it was repeated, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Unsworth, whilst you've submitted your declarations of interest on a form to the governance team for the purpose of declaring interest, you do need to make those actually at the meeting. So if you can repeat what's on your form, that'd be most grateful. Thank you.
Okay, I've just got to find it.
Chairman, while Councillor Unsworth...
I've got it. It's okay, I have it.
Okay,
so,
carry on, Councillor Unsworth.
Sorry, Rosie Pearson is a constituent of my ward and is known to me, and as such, I've attended meetings where she's been present. I'm a member of the Better Braintree page. I will remain and vote on those issues. I'm a member of the Parishes Against Incinerator and a non-remunerated director of the Community Action Group. And as I've said before, I'm a member of the Residents for Braintree District group. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Councillor Butland's got a further one to add.
Yes, Madam Chairman, I should add, I don't think I added that I am a member of Essex County Council. That's also in respect to the local plan, of which Essex County Council is one of the authorities involved.
All right, thank you very much. Now, Councillor Wendy Schmidt.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. NPI as a member of Essex County Council. Thank you.
Thank you. As far as I can see, Councillor Tom Walsh has come back.
Apologies, Chairman. Councillor Walsh is actually posing the question. Chairman, after we were doing the declaration of interest, I was going to ask if I could just intervene as the meeting facilitator, just to, we have a invite that is pending and it's not a name that we identify. So I need to admit that to the meeting to see if it is one of our councillors, but I would prefer to do that once we've gone through declarations of interest. We've got one matter outstanding where I've been asked to repeat the advice that we've given previously on the declarations of being a member of a Facebook page.
And when are you going to do that?
I will do that now, Chairman, with your permission, because looking at the chat function you have, or you have Mrs. Spray outstanding on declarations of interest, if you'd like to deal with Mrs. Spray first.
Councillor Mrs. Spray.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to declare an NPI on items 6 and 8, as I have attended meetings of NEGC Limited as a non-voting participant. I've also had one phone conversation and an exchange of emails with Mrs. Pearson regarding local plan next steps. Thank you. That's me finished.
Thank you. After a long list, is there anybody that I have missed for some reason not seeing you on the chat?
Chairman, you have
Councillor Santamoro, you've got your hand up? No.
Chairman, you've got Councillor Schmidt, if you'd like to invite Councillor Schmidt.
Councillor Wendy Schmidt.
You've already done me.
That's what I thought.
And can we invite Councillor Wallace, please?
Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to disclose a pecuniary interest in the urgent item for Fusion Lifestyle and Leisure Centres, because I'm an employee of Fusion Lifestyle at all 4 Braintree district sites. Thank you. And I will be leaving the meeting when that item is brought forward.
Right.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. We're clearing up loose ends. Are there any other loose ends here? No hands going up? Nobody yelling at me?
Chairman,
We're done.
Chairman, Councillor Hicks, although I don't have him admitted to the meeting, just bear with me from...
I had seen him previously.
Councillor Hicks, are you... Sorry, you're not showing on my screen, so can you confirm that you're here? Chairman, I believe it may be Councillor Hicks who's in our waiting room, but before I move to deal with that matter, if I just may give the advice around the request from Councillor Unsworth for the repeat of the advice that we've given previously about Facebook membership. The advice to members is it's not a requirement of your register of interest to declare that you are a member of Facebook. There is a culture at Braintree District Council to over-declare. It is a matter for members individually to decide whether they wish to declare that, whether they are a member of any Facebook group. Obviously, members' engagement with Facebook and various groups may create an interest. However, if you are a simple member and you're not participating in a way that creates a further interest, it's down to you as to whether you wish to declare it. Chairman, there's nothing further for me to add. If this item is concluded, with your permission, I'd like to admit one outstanding member just to check that they are Councillor Hicks,
yes.
And just test that for one moment. So members, if you can just bear with me for one moment. Apologies, members. We're just wanting to make sure that we have all members present. I do apologise for the delay.
Is Councillor Hicks still in the waiting room?
This is what we're just trying to resolve, Chairman. So if you can just bear with me for one moment.
Otherwise, members, we have concluded item 3, unless Councillor Hicks tells us he has something that he wishes to declare.
It does appear, from my knowledge, Chairman, that is Councillor Hicks. I will...
Can we admit him when he comes and not wait for him?
With respect, Chairman, I cannot see a member if they come to their camera whilst in the waiting room. I will move him back into the...
Can you ring him? Can you ring him?
I will do that, Chairman. Just bear me. I just will put Mr. Hicks...
Because we've got enough to deal with without waiting for people.
I appreciate that, Chairman. I just need to deal with this in a controlled matter, because otherwise I don't want to terminate the meeting. So just bear me for one moment, please. Thank you, Chairman. I'm now just going to send a message to Councillor Hicks, and if you'd like to proceed with the item, please. Thank you.
Right. So thank you very much. There's no more declarations, and we're going to proceed to item 4, which is public question time. Before we commence this session, I'd advise that a request from the Straits Mill Action Group to participate in tonight's public question time was received within the registration deadline, but has been subsequently declined upon the submission of their statement. The reason for declining this statement is that it is for tonight's meeting substantially similar to the 2 previous statements submitted and read at full council on the 1st of June 2020 and the Planning Committee on the 23rd of June 2020, to which a full response was then provided. So as chairman, I have therefore exercised my discretion to not allow this new statement to be read, because it's basically not new. An explanation has been sent to Straits Mill Action Group, so thank you, members. Now, there is one statement for public question time then this evening. The statement is from Mr. Mike Moser. And can I now ask Jessica Mann, who's the governance officer here, to read that statement? Thank you.
Officer Jessica Mann, can you please read the statement? Chairman, in the absence of Jessica Mann, we are going to ask for another officer to read the statement. We do apologise for this.
Hello, Emma. I'm back on. I'm so sorry. My connection disappeared for one moment. It's let me back in now.
Thank you.
Fine. You go ahead then, please, Council Officer Mann.
Thank you very much. Sorry about that, members.
That's all right. Go on.
Okay. So this is from Mr. Moser. Someone needs to be held accountable for the debacle that became the Garden Communities project and commensurate waste of £8 million, a large part of which came from Braintree residents' council tax. This was not a tactical error, but a strategic one. In virtually all walks of life, from corporate to football, the person held accountable under such circumstances is, invariably, residing at the top, the one who is ostensibly responsible for leadership. But no one is held to account is not acceptable. Though it may be easy to say Braintree voters put us in power and thereby gave us a mandate, it would be foolish to presume that this was a broad enough agenda to include wasting such sums of money. Though never popular, any council tax rises in coming years will be seen through the lens of this vast wastage. There is a debt of trust that Braintree district councillors need to begin to repay. Though the next district elections may seem in the distant future, we, the voting residents, won't forget these and other decisions. If you wish to retain the support of Braintree residents, now is the time to start regaining trust, or many Conservative councillors will lose their seats. I'm sure the ruling councillors in Uttlesford thought their positions were immutable. The starting point for this journey of rebuilding is to show Braintree residents that no one can make such a colossal error of judgment and still keep their position. They deserve a new leader heralding a new era of stakeholder engagement. They deserve to be listened to. Councillor Butland must go. Thank you, Chairman. That is the end of the statement.
Well, thank you, Mr. Moser, for submitting that statement. Members, as you are aware, this statement is in respect of an item of business on tonight's agenda, and consequently, I will not be asking for a response to the statement. Thank you, members. That statement concludes item number 4. I will now proceed to the next item of business, which is announcements and statements from the chairman and the leader of the council. So I have the following announcement for this meeting of full council. Members will already be aware of the sad announcement that Honorary Alderman Mr. Rodney Bass, OBE, has passed away. Mr. Bass was chairman of Essex County Council from 2010 to 2012. And for members who knew Mr. Bass, a book of condolence is available and a link has been provided for those who wish to leave a message. That's the end of the announcement on the late Rodney Bass, which is very sad. For my part, once again, I have nothing of real interest to say, except that I want to say that I and lots of other people are supporting our staff and our businesses with agreed safety measures. We remain as we are. I have 5 officers with me in the whole of the council chamber. I'm very grateful indeed for their support, and all of us on the council have a lot to be thankful for with our excellent IT department. And I have nothing else to say. I haven't been anywhere. I haven't been to any events. It's extremely quiet. And I think we'll be continuing like this for some time. And I think it is the safest way to do things, especially as there are spikes in lockdowns happening all over the place. So that's the end of my announcement. And I'd now like to invite Councillor Graham Butland, leader of the council, to make any of his announcements. Councillor Butland.
Madam Chairman, I will make 2 announcements, one about local government reform and one about potential funding for Horizon 120. but with your permission, I'll make that at the beginning of the Cabinet report so you can proceed with matters apace.
All right, so we're going to item 6 now.
Excuse me, Chairman, sorry for interrupting you, but before you take item 6, we have now admitted Councillor Stephen Hicks. It is appropriate that we ask Councillor Hicks, does he have any declarations of interest that he needs to make? And we haven't tested his microphone function. So Councillor Hicks, if you can hear me, please, could you please unmute your microphone, confirm that you can hear the meeting and confirm whether you have any declarations of interest you need to make for this meeting, please.
Good evening, everybody. Yes, I can hear you loud and clear, and I can see you now as well. All I had was a facility before. My non-pecuniary interests are a member of Better Braintree on Facebook and many other local forums on the Facebook page. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hicks.
Thank you very much. Anything else? No? Fine. So we will now continue with item 6. This item 6 is a petition to call for the leader of the council to resign. This item is set out on pages 4 to 5 of the agenda, and we have the lead petitioner, Mrs. Rosie Pearson, with us this evening. Before we commence this item, please can the meeting facilitator admit Mrs. Pearson to our meeting? We're going to pause while she comes in.
Mrs. Pearson has been admitted to this meeting, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pearson. Good evening. I hope you can hear me all right. As the lead petitioner, you will have 5 minutes to present your petition to members. I will invite you to do this once the report has been introduced by Councillor Tom Cunningham. When you have completed your presentation, Councillor Buckland will then be invited to speak. This will be followed by the members' debate on the petition. So, Mrs. Pearson, please can I advise you that you may not participate in the debate afterwards, and your microphone must then be switched off until I invite you to speak and during the members' debate. So now, Councillor Tom Cunningham, can you please introduce the report?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and good evening to you. Following on from the submission of the petition, the leader, as a subject of the petition, asked me to deal with this matter with the relevant officers. Being below the 1,000 eligible signature threshold meant this petition need not have been debated fully at full council. I requested that this was brought to full council, with the lead petitioner having the opportunity to address the meeting. This was the right course of action and shows a desire to be open, transparent, and address the matter in a debate with elected members taking part. This is within the tradition of doing things here at Braintree District Council. I am aware that there have been concerns expressed on various online forums about the validation process of those who have signed. I have therefore, Madam Chairman, with your permission, asked the authorities monitoring officer, Kim Cole, to talk to the meeting and address those concerns and the process that was undertaken. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. So now, Mrs. Pearson, if you would like to present your petition to council, please switch on your microphone and proceed. And I will give you 5 minutes.
Sorry, point of order, Madam Chairman.
Hold on a minute.
Apologies, Chairman. Councillor Cunningham has invited Kim Cole to give advice to full council.
And we do that now?
Yes, please, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Kim Cole will speak now.
Good evening, members. The petition was received on the 19th of June of this year. This was in PDF form and consisted of 76 pages containing the names and addresses of 1,628 individuals. In accordance with the Council's petition scheme, officers reviewed the petition and carried out the validation process. This process involves confirming that those within the petition are from within the district. This is done based solely on the addresses provided within the petition. It is not for the Council to go behind those addresses or to make assumptions as to their accuracy. In the first review, all those providing an address overseas are discounted. Examples of these within the petition were from Nigeria, India, North Carolina, Australia, Singapore, Malaysia and Cape Town. Following that, the addresses are which are outside the district are also discounted. Examples included London, Glasgow, Poole, York, Liverpool, Birmingham and Cardiff. In carrying out this review, officers had identified individuals bearing the same surname. However, there are occasions where the individuals provided different addresses. Where an address was provided within the district, this signature was counted, and where the addresses were outside the district, this was discounted. Whilst it is possible to suggest that those with the same surname are from the same household, and therefore by accepting one, the council should have accepted all, it is not possible to make this assumption on addresses alone. The addresses may have been from the same household, but it is also possible that they were family members living in different locations. So for an example, an individual and an extended family member. With no information to confirm the link, the council has to use the details it is provided within the petition. In the same way, there are some names provided which the council are aware of as being individuals who have previously engaged with the council on a wide range of issues. Again, these names have been discounted where the addresses have been provided as being outside the district. The council cannot make any assumptions of the names provided and are not required to go behind the details submitted by the petition organiser. As a result of this process, officers discounted 1,057 signatures. Ordinarily, this would mean that the matter would not be brought before the council. However, in recognition of the content and the clear public interest in the matter, it was agreed that the petition would progress to full council for debate. Therefore, the fact that the signatures have been discounted should not distract members from the substance of the petition before them this evening, which is set out in the report at pages 4 to 6. That is all, Chairman.
All right, thank you very much. So now, Mrs. Pearson, if you would like to present your petition to council, please switch on your microphone and proceed. I will give you 5 minutes because I'm so nice.
Good evening. I hope you can all hear me. Thank you for accepting this petition. But before I present it, I hear what Mrs. Cole has said, but I don't believe that's good enough. So I'd like to talk briefly about the validation process, which will need a thorough investigation. I believe many hundreds of signatures have been wrongly discounted. The chair and vice chair, for example, of one of the district's parish councils have not been validated, nor have other long-standing residents. In one household, one spouse was validated, the other was not. In addition, many people who live outside the district or come here to work would have been directly affected by the garden communities, by the traffic, the rail commuters, the competition for jobs, the loss of 5,600 acres of countryside, and the huge debt required. Others still do not live in the district but grew up here, have family here, or have moved away temporarily. Many people who signed a petition cannot find their name at all. Finally, please note that due to lockdown, we were unable to petition in person as we would otherwise have done, hence the exclusive reliance on change.org. Whichever way you read it, it's clear the council has tried to downplay the petition and the strength of feeling and appears to be attempting to discredit me. However, as you said, that's not the point of tonight's discussion. I'll follow up separately with a complaint. Tonight, you only have 30 minutes, and I urge you to debate the issues set out in the petition. You'll let down your voters if you waste your allotted time on who signed the petition. Now, I would like to explain why I'm presenting this petition. Residents feel ignored, let down, and angry. That so many people responded to the petition and so quickly reflects this anger and frustration. It saddens me it's come to this. I would far rather engage constructively with a council who listens to residents and plans with us, not against us. So why does the petition single out your leader? Whilst I note Councillor Butland's lengthy public service, it was he alone who chose on 23rd of July 2018 to use delegated powers. He took a decision which has since had huge ramifications for every resident of the district, which was to continue to pursue the exact same garden communities. Councillor Butland made this decision even before a response from the inspector to questions raised by officers in a letter only 3 days before. This demonstrated the predisposition and predetermination. Councillor Butland led the council inexorably to its current situation. What is it that's so bad about that situation? Well, the local plan has been found unsound for a second time by one of government's most experienced and respected inspectors. Both the new towns and the district failed for reasons which residents, including myself, warned about repeatedly. The cost to taxpayers, including appeals, is not known. The result is, and will continue to be, speculative development applications across the district, due to the direction the leader drove the plan. And NEGC Limited, the delivery vehicle of which Councillor Butland is a director, is being wound up. It spent £8 million. Braintree's contribution was £1 million. Yet NEGC delivered nothing but evidence which the inspector singled out as unsound and a shambolic and premature PR exercise last autumn. NEGC Limited did not deliver a single land contract, let alone a house. Councillor Butland continually ignored evidence showing flaws in the proposals. Time after time, he refused to answer legitimate questions or to address concerns. When he said 10 days ago at the local plan meeting that councillors, not officers, are to blame, he unwittingly pointed the finger at himself. The rest of you were removed from decision-making by Councillor Butland 2 years ago. It was your leader alone who ignored the sensible option 1 that the inspector set out in July 2018 as the preferred one. Under that, by now, we would probably have a Section 2 plan in place, would have prevented speculative development and have saved millions of pounds of taxpayers' money. Instead, we were left with a second unsound plan ruling and still no local plan. The leader has shown no understanding what it's like for residents to live under the cloud of the new town proposals, nor has he apologised that we have had to spend many thousands of pounds and hours of time fighting our own council. So tonight, I ask Councillor Butland to do the only honourable thing. He should apologise to residents for the harm he has done to the district, and he should resign. We need someone at the helm who listens to residents and takes on board their concerns. Thank you. And very quickly on the conflict of interest declarations, Councillor Butland has been very active today on the Better Braintree Together group, but it was not declared as a non-pecuniary interest. So I'd like that noted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Pearson. And now can I ask you to switch off your microphone? Yes, all right. And can I remind you that your microphone must be switched off for the remainder of this item? Well, now I'd like to invite Councillor Butland to speak. Thank you, Councillor Butland.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Madam Chairman, although this petition has fallen far short of the required number of petitioners to generate this debate, I welcome this decision to bring it before Council. This gives me the opportunity to respond to the falsehoods, half-truths, innuendo and allegations that it contains. I notice, Madam Chairman, at this moment 58 members of the public are viewing our debate. If any of the 487 signatories who live outside of Greater Essex in various parts of the United Kingdom, or any of the 285 other signatories spread across 6 other continents in the world are watching, then I welcome them to Braintree. And I trust when the freedom to travel is restored, that many of them will take the opportunity to visit our wonderful district. On a more serious level, Madam Chairman, tonight we are witnessing Act 1 of an orchestrated and highly personal vendetta against me. This significantly flawed petition has been set up by the lead petitioner in an attempt to cause maximum embarrassment. It has been peddled around various community social media sites, both by the lead petitioner and her close associates. However, despite their efforts, it has attracted the support of around 0.5% of the district's electorate. However, Madam Chairman, I must inform members that over the coming weeks, there will be further personal attacks upon me. I look forward to receiving the report from the independent firm of solicitors engaged by the council to investigate 5 complaints made against me by a member of this council. That member is also the joint administrator with the lead petitioner of the Better Braintree Together protest group. Also, as the lead petitioner has publicised on her Twitter account, she has also submitted a complaint against me alleging, quote, conflicts of interest, misleading statements, premature and predetermined decisions. Madam Chairman, of course, I shall vigorously defend myself against these allegations. The whole tenor of the petition is that I and I alone took decisions and spent taxpayers' money, both in my position as council leader and as the authority's representative on the board of North Essex Garden Communities Limited. This ignores the fact that all material decisions on the local plan were taken in this council, not by me, not by a small subcommittee as in some councils, but by full council. As regards the board of North Essex Garden Communities Limited, members will understand that I represent just one of the 4 shareholders. Madam Chairman, you may at this point wish to reflect upon the reason why the lead petitioner has chosen only to pursue one of the 4 NEGC directors and only the leader of one of the 4 local authorities. The petition also conveniently ignores the fact that 50% of the funding came from central government. Another attack by the petitioner is that I, quote, ignored the views of thousands of Braintree residents who wrote to protest. This statement, Madam Chairman, stretches poetic license to breaking point. I can count on 2 hands the number of residents who wrote to me personally. In the pre-submission consultation in the summer of 2017, the authority received 482 responses, of which 280 were from residents and 202 from companies, their agents, or groups, including parish councils. One of the companies that responded was the Campaign Against Urban Sprawl in Essex Limited, known to all of us as CAUSE, of which to this day the petitioner is still a director. There is no indication in the filed accounts of that company that the petitioner has received any financial reward. And I am happy to concede that, like me and my directorship of NEGC Limited, no personal benefit has accrued to her from being a director. The final charge in the petition is of showing extremely poor leadership, and that, in the words of the petition, we, the residents of Braintree District, have had enough of his mismanagement and demand that he resigns. Madam Chairman, that is clearly the view of 0.5% of the district's electorate. But I pose the question to members as to whether this is a true representation of the views of the remaining 99.5%. Madam Chairman, I've never been a supporter of populist politics or power by petition. I appreciate that the lead petitioner sets great store by petitions, but I would submit that this petition illustrates in graphic form the weaknesses of them, and I will always, for all its shortcomings, place more respect in the results of the ballot box. At the same time as pursuing her personal vendetta, the lead petitioner has been calling for a dialogue with her and her associates. She, along with Councillor Mrs. Beavis, established a Facebook page, Better Braintree Together, supposedly to foster this dialogue. Unfortunately, it has, like all her other pages, become a home for the discontented. In addition to continue to peddle abusive and derogatory remarks about me personally, they are now engaged on a sustained attack on officers and colleagues across the political spectrum who sit on the planning committee. And in case I may be able to save the petitioner a stamp, I resigned from the Better Braintree group earlier today and informed the monitoring officer accordingly. So I had no declaration to make tonight. So let me be quite clear, Madam Chairman, in the light of the formal complaint against me and the unjustified attacks and complaints against members serving on the planning committee, including the leader of the opposition, Councillor Abbott, no member of this administration will be engaging in any conversations, discussions, or correspondence with the lead practitioner. In conclusion, Madam Chairman, I totally reject the contents of this petition. However, it will be for members to determine the outcome of it. I will take no further part in the debate, and in the event of a vote at the conclusion, I will abstain from voting. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Buckland. Members will now move to the debate. Please can I take this opportunity to advise you all that you may not ask questions of the lead petitioner or the leader. As indicated, he will not participate in the debate or take part in the vote. In order to ensure a fair approach to the debate, I will ask that everyone who wishes to speak indicates now using the chat function. I will then, rather than take them in the order they appear, be using my discretion to take members from each of the political groups in turn. I'm going to allow a period of 30 minutes for the debate on the petition, and members, as I anticipate that there will be a number of members who do wish to speak to the subject of the petition, to ensure that we keep to time. I will certainly be keeping you to time and give opportunity to all who wish to speak. I ask that your speeches are succinct. Don't make the same point that somebody previously has made. Don't endorse speeches that have already been said, and I will confine you to 5 minutes or less if you'll be very nice to me. If necessary, I will ask a speaker to end their speech if I consider it not relevant or that they are only endorsing previous speakers. So now I have a list of speakers, and I'm going to start with Councillor Pritchard, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Whilst I am disappointed that Braintree District Full Council chamber time has been allocated to this petition, I am actually happy that we're debating this matter to establish some case precedent. Lessons need to be learned from this matter, particularly by the lead petitioner, in my opinion. Random petition making and poll taking is a modern craze, but it is not reflective of the democratic process that put us all here in this virtual chamber as we now sit. This petition should not have been submitted to BDC, as it failed to garner the support of the requisite number of Braintree District residents, that figure being some way short of the 1,000 required. For the lead petitioner to not have validated this before submission was, well, I can only categorise it as either incompetence or maliciousness in terms of the petition's target. I'm concerned to note the petition outcome was quickly circulated via various social media outlets as fact, and it was similarly picked up by traditional media who reported this without the true picture being made available to them. There will be Braintree District residents walking around now who still believe the 1,600 signatories figure to be accurate, which is a long way from the truth, and I hope this can be rectified as soon as possible. The breadth of the location of the petition's signatories should be no surprise, given this was managed via change.org, a site that could not be expected to oversee contributions. That was the job of the lead petitioner. There is a danger here for the lead petitioner. The boy who cried wolf springs to mind. Petitioning and similar activities might play well to certain audiences, but when it comes to the majority, the democratic process must be unquestionably reliable. Braintree District residents must be confident that decisions and processes determining the governance, administration and services delivered by BDC are developed with the views of Braintree District residents and not strongly influenced by outsiders. How could we justify to our residents otherwise? I am keen for opposing voices to be heard and for lively debate to ensue on all issues that impact Braintree District residents, but I fear one particularly active group represented by this particularly active lead petitioner have done themselves damage here, something that was completely avoidable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pritchard. I'm going to have Councillor Abbott next.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to start briefly by referring to the comments of the leader. This petition is about his performance as leader, and I think it was unfortunate that he chose to draw in all sorts of other people, myself included, into a Facebook discussion I'm not even aware of. An obvious reference to Councillor Beavis that I think was inappropriate, and generally to attack the petitioner. I am going to talk only about the issues the petition raises, and this is an agreed statement on behalf of the Green and Independent Group of Braintree District Councillors. Firstly, we note the revised numbers attributed to the petition and welcome the fact that it was decided to bring it before full council anyway. That is a very positive thing to have done. However, we would ask for the numbers validated to be further investigated, as it appears that whilst we note some people have been taken off due to living abroad, others who are apparently legitimately signed have not been included. Secondly, and to be very clear, we totally agree with the leader's statement made at Local Plan Committee of 16th of July, that criticism of the plan should be aimed at senior councillors and not officers, because they're doing their jobs and working hard in doing so. However, in saying that, clearly he was inviting an investigation, a view of what he has done in his role as leader. The leader stated, and it was minuted at the June full council meeting, that mistakes had not been made in the drawing up of the Section 1 local plan. We strongly disagree with that assertion. And this is not a matter that should just glide by without consequences and be left to personal attacks. We agree, and I state this on the record, with many of the points raised in the petition, which pose serious questions about the leadership's decision at Braintree District Council regarding the local Section 1 plan, and I set these out as follows. The cost to local taxpayers in funding the Section 1 Garden Communities plan preparation in this district alone has been approximately £1.25 million, excluding internal staff costs. Yet as things stand, it appears not a single home will be built as a result of that work. The spending of NEGC Limited over a 6-year period has been nearly £7 million, to which BDC contributed almost £1 million. The administration of this council outright rejected the proposal the G&I Group made last February to hold off further funding of NEGC, and in so doing, several £100,000 more money was sent to a company which is due to be wound up. We proposed that on the basis that the local plan inspector, if the local plan inspector found the garden communities could proceed, it would be a different matter. But at that time, it was too high a risk to give more money to NEGC. But the council leadership proceeded anyway. The local Section 1 plan was twice found unsound by the local plan inspector. His 2018 letter finding the plan to be unsound was carefully worded. It was polite, but it was overwhelmingly critical. Now, at that time, I was on the council alone as a single Green councillor, but it was very clear that his reasons were numerous and very strong. And the leader of the council ignored the multiple warning signs at that time about the local plan, pressed ahead by making an executive decision, and stated it would only take a matter of months to secure the additional evidence. Given the process involved, that claim, I'm afraid, Madam Chairman, was demonstrably not credible. We are here now 2 years later with the 2 garden communities that would have been sited partly within Braintree District set to be withdrawn and NEGC Limited set to be wound up. Now, the fundamental reason why this failure occurred was not about personalities and who said what at what time. It was about BDC, the leadership of BDC, not taking account of the fact that the evidence was simply not there to support the 3 garden communities. Opposition councillors, local groups, parish councils and thousands of residents were not only ignored, in some cases they were ridiculed for suggesting there were problems on key areas such as viability and the rapid transit system. I'm sure many members will remember last year when I stood up repeatedly at meetings and said, please, there is simply not the evidence to support the RTS. The inspector found the second time.
Councillor Abbott, sorry to just butt in. You're pretty much on your time, so would you like to wind it up?
Well, I'm not near the end, Madam Chairman.
Oh dear, I did say 5 minutes. I'll give you 1 more minute because you're nice. Go on.
Okay.
1 minute more.
Well, that's half of what I was going to say. Go on. I'll go towards the end then. So, Madam Chairman, it is not a surprise to see this petition. The leader of the council, by definition, is a member of the cabinet whose policy has been to support the garden community's plan, and yet at the same time, he's a voting member of the local plan committee and a director of NEGC Limited. But even setting aside his multiple personal roles, surely as a matter of principle, there needs to be a stronger set of checks and balances, and as we propose, a broader-based local plan committee. Due to the rules of debate for petitions, we don't know during this debate what the resulting motion will be from the 3 in-principle options. At this stage, the G&I Group reserves our position on the resignation of the leader, but we will not support a do-nothing proposal. At the very least, this matter should be referred further. And in closing, Madam Chairman, at the appropriate time, I call for a recorded vote.
Thank you very much. We've got that down. All right, Councillor Wallace, I'd like now, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would like to start off by speaking in defence of the leader and the tremendous support that he has shown me. I'm a relatively new councillor, being first elected in May of last year. And from day one, the leader has been nothing but supportive of me. There has never been a time when I haven't been able to ask a question to him, no matter how simple or complex it may have been. I've always felt welcome and encouraged by him, and I'm sure that other new members feel the same way. And I would like to take this opportunity to publicly say thank you. Now, on the other hand, the lead petitioner, who is either involved with or responsible for the Facebook group Better Braintree Together, in my view, doesn't meet the same standards. Better Braintree Together had a high ambition to be inclusive and welcoming, and yet sadly, it mostly seems to be a continuation of bad-tempered, personality-driven tactics we have seen from the petitioner and her supporters. Several members of the Facebook page have added endearing pictures of the great Braintree district countryside. The leader recently tried to post some pictures of how baby cygnets are doing on the Great Notley Pond, and was subjected to a bad-tempered rant as to why this picture couldn't be posted. The lead petitioner seems to be cygnet intolerant, and the incident would be amusing until you consider the sense of anger and personal animosity in which the lead petitioner approaches those who disagree with her. After all, she has allowed others who do agree with her to share pictures of our beautiful district. All of this is clearly evident in the submission of a petition, overwhelmingly short of the required numbers, and why, when responding, this council must reject this cynical stunt. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mrs Wilson is next. Please unmute. Mrs Wilson? Councillor Wilson? Otherwise?
Yeah, I've done it now.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to respond to this petition. I've listened to the contribution of various colleagues and the address by the lead petitioner. I'm not someone to spend a huge amount of time commenting on online forums, but it does seem to me that if you don't agree with the lead petitioner and those who share her views, you can be described as disengaged, not looking at the evidence, not probing or disinterested, which I'm certainly not. The reality is completely the opposite. Those of us who aren't vocal all the time are incredibly interested and take the issue of the local plan very seriously. And this constant attack by the lead petitioner on those who disagree with her has culminated in this petition this evening. However, I would like to say is that disagreement does not mean disinterest. I'm very interested, and I totally disagree with the lead petitioner and with this petition. And I feel very strongly that I can say this because I've actually been elected by the residents of this district and the lead petitioner hasn't. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have Councillor Walsh now. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I misunderstood. The comments read out by James Abbott reflect my opinion.
Right, thank you very much. So I'll move on then to Councillor Wrench. Councillor Wrench?
Sorry, Madam Chair, I believe Councillor Bore was before me.
All right, well, do Councillor Bore. I'm not fighting over the pair of you. Councillor Bore?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have a particularly nuanced response to the petition, dealing mainly with one aspect about which I feel very passionate. In 508 BC, the Athenian leader Cleisthenes introduced reforms which he just called democratia, ruled by the people. In the ensuing 2,500 years, people have fought and died for this principle. There are those, however, who would destroy or diminish this principle, but it's the way we choose our representatives and the way they choose their leaders, from Parliament down to the smallest parish council. So it is with Braintree District Council. Whilst it is intriguing to know that people from 6 continents were willing to lend their names to unseating our elected leader, it is of no consequence whatever. Lightly regulated and not democratic in themselves, petitions have a small role within the system to allow issues of concern to be brought to the attention of councils. But if one were to propose 3 model principles for the petition, it could be these. Do not try to subvert the democratic process, organise the petition properly, and ensure adequate, valid numbers of supporters. This petition would fail on all 3 tests. It seeks to unseat a leader who was elected last year with virtually unanimous support across all party groupings, with only 1 abstention. It was abysmally organised, and from 1,628 signatures, only 571 were valid, equivalent to about 10% of the population of Coggeshall, perhaps, spread across the entire district. As for the true motivation for the petition, this is complex to say the least. Now, there will be much debate about who was to blame for what and how regarding the local plan. But whatever the grievance, we stand by our democratic principles. Madam Chairman, one would hope that if the leading petitioners ever thought to repeat such a misguided exercise, particularly if they were inspired by a personal vendetta, they would reconsider. For there is only one way this council chooses its leader. Democratia. Democracy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now it's Councillor Wrench.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I concur with a lot that has been said during this petition debate, particularly the style and means of the lead petitioner. It is worth remembering that this petition was championed and promoted enthusiastically through one of the lead petitioner's initiatives, the Better Braintree Together Facebook page, and the tone and manner of some of the contributions seemed to resort to a level below the high standards in which the Facebook page originally set itself. I want to particularly refer to the Bulmer Bloomer, where Councillor Tom Cunningham, Councillor Ritchie, Councillor Abbott, and myself were asked to respond to Mr. Duncan Perry's report of the meeting and critique of performance of the Planning Committee. This included comments on Councillor Abbott, where Mr. Perry referred to his contribution as disappointing. I may not agree with Councillor Abbott on everything, but I totally respect his dedicated public service and experience, which I've been aware of since childhood. The same goes for Councillor Mrs. Pell and Councillor Mann. And his comments on a site-specific application should not be criticised in this way. The same courtesy should be extended to all members. It is of course worth reflecting that the lead petitioner is not the only administrator of this forum. Councillor Mrs. Beavis and another member of the public are as well. It says something that one of the administrators is quite prepared to let the leader of her group, which she is joined last year, having been elected an independent for Hedenham in May 2019, to be on the receiving end of this and allow such a trial continue online. We must bear in mind the page is supposed to be focused on future planning across the whole district. Sadly, this further demonstrates the tone and approach that we have seen before this debate, during and probably after as well. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. I don't have any more members down to say anything about this. And so I am now going to invite Councillor Tom Cunningham to speak.
Madam Chairman, thank you very much. Thank you to the lead petitioner for her contribution this evening, for the leader's response, and for those member colleagues from all sides of the council chamber who have contributed this evening. Madam Chairman, there are points that have been made that are relevant to the petition process. I think they're well-made points from members, and they are justified. I think it's very difficult for the lead petitioner to continue with this argument that there's an attempt to downplay the petition when the petition fell significantly below the threshold and was debated in full at full council with the lead petitioner taking part in our proceedings this evening virtually. I think it's very difficult to keep that line of argument up. I expect that line of argument will continue. But Madam Chairman, I would like to bring this to a close now. I think it's important that having debated this, Council has a resolution. Therefore, Madam Chairman, as a member of the Cabinet, I would like to move the following motion. That this Council acknowledges receipt of the petition calling for the resignation of its leader. It accepts that some of the signatories have genuine and strongly held views on the issue. The Council, however, rejects the contents of the petition, believing at all times the Council, and not just the leader, has acted in good faith. The Council also rejects the accusation against its leader that he has acted inappropriately in respect of his position as Braintree District Council representative on the board of North Essex Garden Communities Limited. The Council therefore resolves to take no further action in respect of this petition. And Madam Chairman, I note that Councillor Abbott has moved a recorded vote. I would certainly like to second that and seek approval from 2 other members for that recorded vote to take place. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. Can I have 2 other members?
Agreed.
Indicate Councillor Bowers and Councillor Bohr. Yes, thank you. So we're going to move a motion that no further action is required, and I have 2 other people. Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. He's moved the motion and I've got my seconders. I will now open the debate on the motion. Do any members wish to speak on this motion that Councillor Cunningham has put before you, and seconded by Councillor Bohr and Councillor Bowers? You members, you may only speak on the motion. I will allow 30 minutes for this part of this item. Please indicate on the chat function if you wish to speak.
Point of order, Madam Chairman. Apologies if I've confused the process. In moving the motion, I did move the motion. I also agreed to the recorded vote. I note on the chat function that Councillor John Bohr would like to second the actual motion in terms of no further action that I moved. So apologies, Madam Chairman, if I inadvertently confused the process.
Right, thank you very much. That's all right. We are going to have a debate on it, on just the motion. Who would like to say...
Madam Chairman, Councillor Abbott here.
Yes, hello, Councillor Abbott.
Sorry to butt in. Is this the correct procedure? I understood that once the motion was put, it was voted on, and I thought we just had the debate.
That was a debate on the petition. Now we're going to have a debate on the motion.
Well, if you look at 3.4 on page 6, it says, once seconded, the motion will be voted upon by full council. Could we have clarity on that, please?
Chairman, would you like to invite Kim Cole to give advice on this procedure, please? Chairman, would you like to invite Kim Cole to give advice on the procedure, please?
Thank you. I'm going to ask for Kim Cole now to give us some advice.
Good evening, members. In the normal course, what would happen once a motion's been put in support of a recommendation within the report and seconded, it would naturally move straight to the vote. However, in this instance, given that the report set out that there were 3 options available to come forward, it was felt that it was important to enable members the opportunity to actually address the issue around the particular motion that's being put forward now. If no member wishes to further engage as part of the debate, then we can move swiftly to the vote.
Right, does any member wish to speak on this? Please indicate. I'm not having any indications. Councillor Kevin Bowers wants to make a point of order. Yes, Councillor Bowers?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd just like to make the point that when I was putting my hand up and agreeing, that was for the recorded vote, because that's what I thought was being asked for 2 members. So I just wanted to sort of avoid any confusion, because I'm aware that Councillor Bohr was seconding the motion.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I was agreeing for the recorded vote. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Now, Councillor Abbott, I've got you up on the chat. Speak, please. Did you want to say something else, or was that just before?
Yes, briefly. Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, firstly, I think it's unfortunate that that wasn't set out in the agenda, because I can read what it says in paragraph 3.4. It would have been very helpful to know in advance that there was going to be a debate on the motion on one of the 3 options. Having said that, I think the matter has been a real shame the way it's been handled tonight by the Conservative group, who have clearly embarked on an orchestrated attack on the petitioner and who have sought to completely confuse things by referring to all sorts of Facebook postings. I have to say, we entirely predicted they would do that in our GNI group meeting last week. Instead of dealing with, which I tried to do, although I was cut off a few paragraphs short, in the actual substance of why we feel there is an issue with the leadership of the council. All that said, the GNI group can't support the motion because we do feel there are questions to be asked. You know, we have not said at this point that at this point we think the leader should resign. What we have said, though, is we think this matter should be referred further, that it shouldn't just be dropped, that this shouldn't just be an issue of gliding by all of these huge costs that have been incurred to the council and the failure of the local plan section 1. And so for those reasons, Madam Chairman, we shall be voting against this motion.
Thank you very much. Members, Councillor Tom Cunningham has moved the motion, seconded by Councillor Bohr, and I am now going to proceed to a recorded vote, unless the officer wishes to tell me something.
No, Chairman, just for the purpose of clarity, I would just like to confirm that Councillor James Abbott initially called for the recorded vote.
Yes.
It's a requirement that is supported by an addition of 3 members, and we therefore have Councillor Cunningham, Councillor John Bohr and Councillor Kevin Bowers, who are seconding the need for a recorded vote. So, Chairman, we do have a properly facilitated recorded vote. So would you now like to hand over to the Chief Executive to take the recorded vote? Thank you.
So we're handing over to Andy right now for the recorded vote.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, members. We will now take a recorded vote on the motion concerning the petition. What I shall do is read out each councillor's name, and then if you can confirm whether you're for, against or abstain verbally to me, we'll move through this process as quickly as we possibly can. Councillor Abbott?
Against.
Councillor Bohr?
For.
Councillor Mrs Beavis?
Against.
Councillor Bebb?
For.
Councillor Bowers?
For.
Councillor Coleridge?
For.
Councillor Courtauld?
For.
Councillor Mrs Cunningham?
For.
Councillor Cunningham?
For.
Councillor Dervish?
For.
Councillor Eusden?
For.
Councillor Everard?
For.
Councillor Mrs Garrett?
For.
Councillor Hensman?
For.
Councillor Hicks?
Against.
Councillor Horner?
For.
Councillor Hume? Councillor Hume, are you still with us?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson?
For.
Councillor Kilmartin?
For.
Councillor Mann?
For.
Councillor McCardle?
For.
Councillor McKee?
For.
Councillor Monday?
For.
Councillor Mrs Parker?
For.
Councillor Mrs Pell?
For.
Councillor Pritchard?
For.
Councillor Radley?
For.
Councillor Ramage?
For.
Councillor Ritchie?
For.
Councillor Rose?
For.
Councillor Santamoro?
For.
Councillor Mrs Scattergood?
For.
Councillor Mrs Smith?
For.
Councillor Swear?
For.
Councillor Mrs Spray.
For.
Councillor Tattersley.
For.
Councillor Thorogood.
Against.
Councillor Unsworth.
Against.
Councillor Van Dulken.
For.
Councillor Wallace, apologies.
For.
Councillor Walsh.
Against.
Councillor Walters.
For.
Councillor Miss Weeks.
Against.
Councillor Mrs Wilson.
For.
Councillor Wrench.
For.
And Councillor Wright.
Against.
Okay, members, if you can just give us a minute just to count up those totals. Oh, before I do that, Councillor Butland, can I just ask, do you want to vote or register your abstention?
Yes, please. I would like, I said I would abstain. I would still want that to be recorded. Otherwise, it will appear as if I was not there. I abstain.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, whilst that's being concluded, could I ask please for an explanation of the comment that Councillor Bohr has made on the chat function, which is potentially publicly available?
No, I don't want anything said. We're just going to wait for the vote results. Thank you, Councillor Abbott.
Well,
That's what we're doing. We're waiting for the result.
Well, then it may be subject to complaint.
We'll wait for a minute and see what happens. Always very difficult when we're not all in the chamber together. We just have to be a little bit patient. Right, I think we're coming for the announcements. This is normally when we're in chamber, when everybody chats around to one another, so we don't notice that time is passing. But because we're all sitting waiting in the chamber, the five of them. Right,
Okay.
Are you ready then?
Okay,
Mr.
Chairman, yeah, the results of the vote are 38 for, 8 against and 1 abstention.
Thank you very much. This motion is approved. Thank you, members. That concludes this item of business. And thank you, Mrs. Pearson, once again for coming and attending the meeting of full council. I'm sure you know you're welcome to watch the remainder of the meeting via council's YouTube channel. And I will ask the meeting facilitator now to disconnect you from the meeting. So I'm going to pause while that happens.
Thank you, Chairman. I am just now removing Mrs. Pearson from the meeting, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we're now going to item 7. All right, everybody. Item 7 is the approval of reasons for absence.
I'm sorry, Madam Chairman. I wish to raise a point of order, which I should have done at the time.
I'll allow it.
Regarding Councillor Abbott's continued comments and discussion after we had concluded that there was not going to be a debate on the motion, I feel that that is trying to gain an advantage over others.
Madam Chairman, I wish to make a point of order, please.
Chairman, Councillor Ball is not frozen. He's still participating in the meeting. Just bear with us for one moment. Councillor Abbott, could you just pause for one moment, please? We just need to sort out a technical issue in the chamber. Members, can you just please bear with us one moment? Apologies, members. As you are aware, with virtual meeting platforms, we do periodically have some issues around connectivity. The chairman is just having her connections checked. So members, if you can please bear with me for 1 moment. Please can I ask members do not have further discussions at this point. Please can I remind you that the YouTube broadcast is still continuing and that broadcast is public. So I'm grateful for your patience. So if you can just please bear with us. Okay, right. Apologies, members, we do have technical issues here and we're having to make some arrangements in the chamber. Could I please ask the webcasting officer just to adjourn this broadcast for the time being? By my clock in the chamber, it is 20:33. So please can the webcasting officer just adjourn the YouTube channel for the moment? Can you commence the broadcast, please?
We are back, yes.
Thank you very much. Apologies, members, we had some technical issues in the chamber, which we have now resolved. Now, please can I hand the meeting back to the chairman at 20:36. Thank you.
Oh, members, my officers are so cool under stress and pressure. Right, we're on item 7, reasons for absence, corona outbreak.
Chairman, Councillor Abbott here. I did actually just before the break ask for a point of order to be made.
Yes, well, we were in the middle. I know what we were. We were in the middle of Councillor Ball, weren't we? Councillor Ball, are you still there?
Yes, I am still here.
Right, can you carry on from where you were? I'm bigly apologising.
I apologise for putting a message on chat. That was a mistake. But what concerned me was that there is clear under 3.4 of section item 6, once seconded, the motion will be voted upon by full council. After that matter was determined that there would be an immediate vote, Councillor Abbott came in and made other comments and continued to discuss it. I think that is not a correct procedure. Just ask for a ruling on that, please.
Councillor Abbott, do you wish to respond to that?
Yes, well, I invite Councillor Board to apologise for a second time, because if he was paying attention, he would have seen that I asked the very same question of the chairman, and officers advised there was going to be a debate on that matter, which I then briefly did.
Right, so where does that leave us then, gentlemen? We're not going to stand on this all night.
No, so Councillor Abbott gave reasons why he was going to vote against the motion, and I think that's not permissible. It's simple recorded vote, no question. Thank you.
Can I ask for officers to clarify?
One quick one.
Can I ask for officers to clarify, because I asked the very same point on the same paragraph, and officers said that, and I queried that point, and officers said we are now going to have a debate on the motion. So I briefly spoke to the motion. Can this be clarified, please? Because I think Councillor Bohr wasn't paying attention. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Members, Mrs. Kim Cole has given the advice on how we dealt with the agenda item 6. That matter has now been dealt with. In order to progress the meeting, I'd invite the chairman to continue the agenda. I acknowledge that Councillor Abbott would like that point addressed, but Ms. Kim Cole has already given the advice that how we have a slight difference in the petition procedure to enable all members to have an opportunity to speak on the motion. Chairman, I believe that addresses the point. I would like to ask you to proceed with the agenda items, and if we may continue with agenda item 7. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's what I'm going to do, Councillors Abbott and Bohr. So, item 7 is the approval of reasons for absence, the coronavirus outbreak, and the inability to attend meetings. And this item is set out on pages 7 and 8 of your agenda. So I'd now like to invite Councillor Buckland to introduce the report and to move the recommendations set out on page 8 of your agendas. Thank you very much, Councillor Buckland.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You'll be pleased to know that this is one paper on the agenda tonight, which carries the support of all group leaders. This is an issue we discussed at our meetings, and it was agreed that we would bring this to Council. Clearly, Madam Chairman, we are in extraordinary times. We don't know when we will come out of it, or indeed whether we might have more stringent situation later in the year. But this was to deal with situations which normally would not apply to members attending, such as their own illness or not being able to attend a meeting because they are in some way shielded, or their device fails, as we've seen tonight, etc. And so, rather that, whilst the arrangements have been changed, the ones that have not been changed are those for 6-month non-attendance. And so, by bringing this in with the agreement of all parties, it does mean that consideration can be given to what will be exceptional cases as set out in paragraph 4.1. I would say to all members, this is not a free ticket not to attend for the next 6 months, but it is something which will enable genuine cases which are affected as a result of the situation we are at the moment, that members could continue their membership. And I so move, Madam Chairman, the recommendations contained in 4.1.
All right, thank you very much. Can I have a seconder for this, please? Please indicate by the chat function if you're seconding. I want a seconder. Councillor Wilson is seconding. Thank you very much. Right. So do any other members wish to speak on this item? If you do, please indicate by the chat function. I'll take each member in turn. I've currently got Councillor Walsh to start off. Councillor Walsh? You're muted. Councillor Walsh, please unmute. Councillor Walsh? Councillor Walsh, we can't hear you. Can you hear him? Councillor Walsh, I'll try unmuting him from here. No. Councillor Walsh, we can't hear you. I'm going to leave Councillor Walsh and I'm going to go to Councillor Abbott until Councillor Walsh realises he can't be heard. Councillor Abbott, would you like to say something?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman.
Well done.
Welcome the cross-party working on this. It's a very sensible measure in these exceptional times, and we're happy to back it.
Thank you very much. Now, Councillor Walsh, can we hear you now? I don't think we can. Councillor Abbott, you're speaking on behalf of Councillor Walsh, probably, aren't you?
I would hope so, Madam Chairman. But,
yes. So in view of the fact that we can't hear him, can you hear him, Councillor Abbott, just out of interest?
No, I don't. There's a problem, obviously.
Yes, I think that. So I'm going to take it that he has spoken through your own excellent voice. All right. I now think I have. Who did somebody? Councillor Cunningham, did you want to say something?
Apologies, Madam Chairman, there hadn't been a seconder for the motion, so I put on the chat function that I would, but I don't wish to add anything.
Okay, no, we did have one. All right. Any other members wishing to speak on this item?
Madam Chairman, I've got the sound back. Sorry. About
Okay,
that.
go on then. You've got very short time because
yes,
you're
I'll be just a few seconds. I strongly support this, and I had a friendly bit of advice or warning from senior officers that I might fall through the 6-month rule. I'm very pleased to see item C, that one reason for missing meetings is when the council has to cancel meetings. The only other thing I want to say is, and I have raised this 2 or 3 times before, it's not unusual for Braintree to convene meetings, and I think Councillor Sander may have been affected tonight during school holiday periods, and those who have children or spouses working in the schools are deprived of taking part. I hope we can bear this in mind going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. No, I don't see anybody else wanting to speak, so we're going to now proceed to a vote. The recommendations are set out on page 18 of the agenda, have been moved and seconded, and we'll be using a poll for the vote. So a screen will appear which each member can see, but it's not available, there it is, not available to the public via the YouTube channel, so the public can't see what we do. Members, I will be assisted by the meeting's facilitator to confirm the vote result before I formally announce the decision on this recommendation. Members, when it appears on your screen, do please vote. There's 46 members, isn't Right. Well, I have in front of me 100% for the recommendation set out on page 8 of the report. That's very kind. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. It's unanimous. We're now going to item 8, the section 1 local plan, next steps. So, item 8. This item set out on page 9 to 115 of the agenda. I would like to invite Councillor Mrs. Gabrielle Spray, Chairman of the Local Plan Subcommittee, to introduce the report and to move the recommendations set out on page 11 of the agenda. So, Councillor Mrs. Spray, will you present your report?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Good evening to you. Good evening to members and also members of the public watching via the YouTube link. I'm pleased to present this item, which, as you say, is set out on pages 9 to 115 of tonight's agenda. Section 1, Local Plan Next Steps, asks this council to approve the recommendations made by the Local Plan Subcommittee on Thursday, the 16th of July, which I chaired. I don't intend to read too much from the report, as members have had the opportunity to do that for themselves, but I will provide just a very brief recap. Following the hearings for the Section 1 local plan, which took place in 2018 and again in January of this year, the inspector wrote to the 3 North Essex authorities with his suggested modifications, which would allow Section 1 to be found sound. The inspector, Mr. Clues, offered 2 options. It is for the authorities to decide whether to choose the first option, which is to accept his proposed modifications, proceed to a 6-week public consultation on those modifications, and then hopefully have the plan found sound, at which point this district could then move on to the examination of Section 2 of our draft local plan. The alternative option is to reject the modifications and withdraw the plan altogether. This would mean going back to the drawing board with both Section 1 and Section 2. If neither of those options were considered acceptable, there is a third alternative. The North Essex authorities could mount a challenge and ask the Secretary of State to consider the plan in its current form. All 3 authorities need to make the same decision. Both of those last 2 choices would be costly and would involve considerable delay to the local plan process. Therefore, the recommendation to this council from the local plan subcommittee is to take Section 1 forward to consultation with the proposed modifications. I'm pleased to say that both Colchester Borough Council and Tendring District Council have already approved this same route. Before I move on to the recommendations and a vote, I do want to say something about housing numbers. Now, as members will no doubt be aware, a letter was received from the inspector on the 2nd of July, referencing newly released housing projections issued by the ONS, Office for National Statistics. These figures represent a step change from the previous housing target for this district, a target which the inspector acknowledged was sound as recently as his letter to the North Essex authorities on 15th of May this year. At the inspector's request, his letter of 2nd of July was published on the examination website and has been made widely available. I trust, therefore, that all my colleagues have had the opportunity to read it. What the inspector has invited us to do, and here I'm quoting directly from his letter, is to provide a statement with evidence-based reasons on whether or not they consider that the publication of the 2018-based household projections represents a meaningful change in the housing situation from the situation that existed when I produced my letter of 27th of June 2018, and if so, what the implications are for the housing requirement figures in the submitted Section 1 plan. In other words, the inspector is asking for our opinion on the new figures. The methodology behind the ONS figures is complicated. There are at least another 6 additional modules which need to be calculated and taken into account before we can give Mr. Clues our response. So for this reason, members, and in order to allow specialist housing consultants to properly examine the data, we have asked the inspector for an extension to the original 24th of July deadline for our reply. This he has given, and we will go back to him by this Friday, 31st of July. Members, I will commit to briefing the group leaders this Thursday before the response to the inspector is submitted. That response at the inspector's request will be published on the examination website. But I will say again, I'm happy to brief group leaders this Thursday in advance of that. I want to just remind members that whatever our response is, he will be taking others' views into account. The final decision on the housing number to be applied over the life of the plan period for Braintree District rests with the inspector. And in case anyone has any doubts about that, I just want to refer members to a High Court judgment which was handed down just last Thursday, 23rd of July. Keep Bourne End Green versus Buckinghamshire Council and the Secretary of State was a local plan case where the campaigning group challenged the right of the inspector to determine, amongst other matters, the housing number in that authority's local plan. The judge concluded that it was the inspector's right to make that decision. Members, we have housing experts examining the ONS figures, which, as I have stated several times, are not a simple matter, as some, including Councillor Unsworth and others who post comments on certain sites, would have you believe. We don't want to build houses where there is no demand, but it is vital that we go back to our inspector with a number that we can defend and evidence that will stand up to scrutiny. To do anything else would risk further delay in the Section 1 process and by default Section 2. As an example, Harlow Council received a similar letter from their local plan inspector following the new ONS figures, and that showed a reduction of around 2/3 in their housing target. Harlow's response was a 3-page letter saying that they preferred to stick with their original housing number. Their inspector has replied that she is unable to accept this as they haven't provided sufficient evidence to back up their argument, so they have more work to do. I don't want this council to find itself in a similar position for the sake of a few extra days delay this week. Once the response is provided to the inspector, it will of course be made available to members and published on the examination website as he has requested. Madam Chairman and members, turning to the matter in hand this evening, I refer you to the 6 recommendations on page 11 of your agenda. These are the recommendations for your approval from the Local Plan Subcommittee. I'd just like you to note that recommendation F is an additional recommendation to the original 5. It was proposed by Councillor Tom Cunningham at the meeting of the Local Plan Subcommittee and was adopted. And I'm going to read that one out to you as it clearly sets out our position. So recommendation F, that should a reduced OAN figure be considered to be an accurate position of the housing need in the district, Braintree District Council will, during the consultation, make representations and encourage residents to make representations that an updated figure be adopted for the district of Braintree. Members, the recommendations are before you and I so move. Thank you, Chairman.
All right, thank you. Different laptop, so things are in slightly different places. Thank you, Mrs. Spray. Councillor Mrs. Spray has moved the recommendations set out on page 11 of your agendas. So can I now please have a seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Euston. Thank you. Do you wish to reserve your right to speak?
Yes, please, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Do any members wish to speak on this item? If you wish to speak, please indicate by the chat function and I'll look at it and take each member in turn as they appear. The members are again asked to confine speeches to 5 minutes. I'm looking at here Councillor Abbott first off.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The BDC Section 1 costs for the local plan total about £1.25 million, excluding internal staff costs, yet not a single home is set to be built in Braintree District as part of this project. A key question already put tonight, but worth asking again, is why did the administration continue past the 2018 inspector's decision that Section 1 was not sound when the clear warnings were there in his carefully worded but overwhelmingly critical letter? We in the G&I group during the 2019 questioned the additional evidence, including on viability, house building rates and the rapid transit system. We also, Madam Chairman, if members recall, asked in February of this year that no more taxpayers' money should be given to NEGC Limited and until and unless the inspector backed the garden communities. But the administration ploughed on regardless and more taxpayers' money was lost. Questions we have raised at the recent local plan committee were largely dismissed, and I think it was unfortunate that Councillor Spray described my views as political. Clearly, and obviously, we live in a political environment, but there's nothing political about the fact that the evidence was not there to support the new town's plan. What was political, and we've seen it again tonight, was the way in which the administration ignores the views of many and ridicules them for raising those views. The leader of the council claimed, including in the full-page advert taken out in the local press, that the inspector's decision involved fine margins. That, Madam Chairman, is not accurate. West Tay was hopelessly unviable and was directly linked to the most serious problems with the RTS, which I personally repeatedly warned about last year. So we were not listened to, nor were thousands of residents and local groups who raised strong concerns. We repeat that we believe the leadership of this council should at the very least apologise for wasting public money, for creating years of delay in securing a local plan, which has, contrary to their claims, led to speculative development. Now, all that said, Madam Chairman, I'm now going to completely change tack and say, going forward, we will now support the inspector's option 1 to withdraw west of Braintree and West Tay. That will protect the countryside and avoid further delays of up to 2 years. We will support a modified section 1 on the current understanding of what the next steps are. We will also support a revised section 2, hopefully with those new ONS numbers and with a meaningful public consultation. As the leader suggested in the local plan meeting, the discussions going forward are now going to be interesting to say the least, as section 2 now has over 15,000 houses in it, and that may well be challenged by developers. But this is an inspector-led process, and we will support the best outcome for the district based on the evidence. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Abbott. I have next Councillor Eusden.
Sorry, Chairman, I haven't asked to speak.
All right, thank you. Councillor Walsh is next.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My questions do not relate to, except in one case, to what came up at the local plan committee. But my first question I had originally put to the last meeting of full council, but it wasn't really answered. I wonder if through you or through the leader of the council, we could get confirmation that the leader will no longer refer, as he did in his statement of the 20th of May, to the additional housing and gypsy traveller sites will be required, because this could be seen to be pejorative, stereotypical, if not divisive, to single out just one community and in its entirety. It's not a question of the garden communities, because surely such sites are needed anyway. Secondly, I have a few questions. Shall I put them all at once?
Well, you want Councillor Mrs. Spray to respond?
Either herself or on behalf of the leader, yes, thank you.
Well, Councillor Mrs. Spray has indicated that she'd like to speak. So, Mrs. Spray, would you like to come in now, or would you like to wait for the extra 2 questions?
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I will respond to Councillor Abbott, but actually if Councillor Walsh would like to finish, and then I can mop up his as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Councillor Walsh, ask your 2 questions then, please.
Thank you. Well, again, this is to the chair of the local plan committee. How does she or indeed the leader explain how we've got here after some 5 years of efforts with our plan thrown out twice by the inspector? What lessons, and I ask this constructively, what lessons have been learned, and will she now agree to work constructively with other groups on this council and indeed with community groups? And the penultimate point was, I asked this question at the local plan committee, but it was referred to officers. I imagine the chair of the local plan committee or the leader of the council should have a view on this. What are the approximate costs and timescales of the 2 main options to withdraw and modify the local plan? And finally, Councillor Spray helpfully mentioned she's going to give a statement on the ONS figures to group leaders. Might I ask that before that is sent to the inspector, it could be shown either by email or at a meeting of the local plan committee? Thank you very much, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. So now, Councillor Spray, are you all right to respond to that now?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll respond first of all to Councillor Abbott. Why did we continue past 2018? Well, the inspector asked for further evidence and information, which he wanted in order to proceed with the public examination. And that we provided in full, which is why the examination was then reopened in January of this year. So that is why we continued. This administration has always believed, and still does, in trying to bring forward high quality, sustainable development for our part of North Essex. That is good quality homes and the necessary infrastructure to go with it. We believed, we still do, that we were doing the right thing. I am pleased to hear that Councillor Abbott is going to support the modifications. I think that's absolutely the right thing to do. We need to move on with section 1, hopefully get it found sound, and then we can go on to section 2. He quite rightly says that this is an inspector-led process, both the next steps with section 1 and section 2. And it will be up to Mr. Clues to decide the final numbers and makeup, if you like, of section 1. A different inspector will be appointed for section 2, and we will have to take our lead from that inspector. And just finally, I don't think it was being derogatory of me to talk about Councillor Abbott or anybody else being political. I think, you know, we can all be political. I certainly didn't mean it in a derogatory way. You know, we've all got our politics and our views. Didn't mean it to be derogatory at all. And if he saw it that way, well, I'm sorry, I certainly didn't. Councillor Walsh, your sound was breaking up slightly, but I think the first point you mentioned was to do with traveller sites. Well, and I'm not actually totally sure what your full point was, but I don't believe that at any stage either I or the leader have made any sort of derogatory marks about traveller sites at all, and whether or not we do need more or less in section 1 will again be something that no doubt will come out during the public consultation. Will I work constructively? Well, not just me, but by this administration with council groups? Yes, we always aim to do that. Obviously, we don't always see eye to eye, but certainly we're happy to do that. Your question on the costs and options, I will have to refer back to officers. I have to say, I thought we'd got an answer on that. If not, I apologise, but I will ask officers to get an answer on that, and I will get that back to you. And I think, oh yes, your final point. Right, the process is that we are waiting for the report from the housing consultants on the housing numbers. So I have suggested that I will give a briefing to all group leaders, probably it'll be Thursday, probably Thursday lunchtime. The reply will then go back to the inspector, and at his instruction, that reply will at the same time be made public. It will go on the examination website, on our BDC website, and I have no doubt there will also be a press release at the same time. So everybody, district councillors, members of the public, interested parties will get to see the reply. That is a given, because that's how it works. I have just offered to give the group leaders a slight heads up on it the day before. I hope I've covered everything, Madam Chairman. Happy to take any more questions.
We may be coming back, you never know. Councillor Wright, you've been ever so patient, but I felt it was good to go back to Councillor Spray at that point. So have you got something new to say then, Councillor Wright, after all of that discussion? Do come in.
Yes, Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
At the local plan committee meeting, the criticisms of Priti Patel about the joint section 1 plan appeared to be dismissed on the basis of which house she lives in. On reflection, would the cabinet member for planning not agree that the views of a local MP elected to serve a constituency should be considered irrespective of where they might live? Thank you.
Councillor Spray.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Sorry, I think I muted myself.
You're on now.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Wright. Of course, the honourable member for Witham is absolutely entitled to her opinion. I wasn't disputing that at all. I just don't happen to agree with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I've got Councillor Pritchard.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just had an observation to make. We continually get from the opposition comments in relation to section 1, and to me they always feel very wise after the event. I'm very pleased that we pursued the angle that we attempted here with the ambitious Section 1 plan, which included an infrastructure-led development process. Yes, the inspector has found this not to his liking, but there was some very good content in here. I think to suggest that there's all of the funds that were spent were wasted in this regard. There's a lot of good that can come out of what was undertaken within this Section 1 plan. The question I have actually for the Cabinet member is, I wondered if she had any idea of how the ONS figures were reached at this stage. I say that because, of course, the current situation that we're all finding ourselves in is potentially going to change how and where people live. And potentially we might see ourselves looking at a strategy of people exiting larger cities and moving to where, there are less grossly populated areas, and whether our area might be recipient of that sort of movement. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Spray, you can come back.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. Yes, well, I wholeheartedly agree that I believe we were right to pursue our vision for the development for our area. As far as the ONS figures, how they're reached, the overall picture is very complex, which is why we've asked for an extension of time to get to the bottom of how they reach their figures. The ONS have changed their methodology this time around, and they've based it on 2 years rather than 5 years of trends in population. And it is true to say that there is less migration in the 2 years, which is 2016 to 2018, less migration to this part of East Anglia than there had previously been. One of the reasons for that could be that we actually haven't built enough homes for people to move into. So it is entirely possible that when their next set of figures come out, the numbers might have increased, because we're actually building more homes. We've built more homes since 2018 than the period when they were looking at the figures. So it's a bit like asking how long is a piece of string, to be honest. In addition to their calculations, as I said in my statement earlier, there are at least another 6, maybe 7 modules which have to be taken into account. Population trends, employment trends, age of residents and so on. And it is really quite complex. But we will have to see. It'll be interesting to see in 2 years' time whether their calculations are different. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Now I have Councillor Butland and then Councillor Tom Cunningham after him. Councillor Butland.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I don't want to ask questions because I think this is supposed to be a debate and not question time. But I just want to pick up a couple of things. This is about looking forward, but clearly some people want to look back, and that's understandable. It was said that a certain amount of money has been spent and not a single house has been built. Of course, that would have been exactly the same situation if the inspector had approved all 3 garden communities. The money would still have been spent, but at this moment, a single house would not have been built, because actually you don't build houses within a month. And in fact, we haven't had the final report yet from the inspector. So that's the first thing. Second thing I want to say is that actually one of the garden communities has come out of this on the tendering Colchester borders. And also that it was almost a unanimous view of this council to support the plan that went forward. Let's just look back to the 5th of June 2017, and I appreciate there are members here tonight who were not members of the council at that time, and indeed may not have followed our proceedings that closely. But we had a very, very good debate on the plans that went forward. It was passed by 37 votes to 1, and there was 1 abstention. And that abstention was Councillor Abbott. And the main objection in that, during that, was to 1 in particular, was Amendment 9, which Councillor Abbott moved with the support of the then Conservative councillor for Kelvedon and Fearing, to reduce the size of the West Tay proposal from between 15 and 24,000 to 7 to 10,000. In retrospect, would I have liked to have seen that passed, and would that have made a difference? to the inspector's report. I don't know whether it would have made a difference, but I wouldn't mind if I could turn the clock back of having a try. So we all made various judgments. Interestingly enough, of course, as the lead petitioner tonight said in her statement, if we had gone ahead and not taken the advice that I gave, it was likely that we would now have in place a Section 2. I think she's right. I think we would have in place a Section 2 based on a figure of 716 houses per year for the life of that plan. So I am not claiming, Madam Chairman, that we were brilliant and we knew that the ONS were going to come up with some figures which might, as Councillor Spray has said, might lead to a significantly lower figure. But at least we now have the choice, which if we had accepted the advice that we were being urged to do a short while ago, we wouldn't have the choice because we would have had a Section 2 agreed by an inspector based on 716. So we all have, looking back, things that we might or might not wish to have done. If I can just clarify on traveller sites, because I think that's an important thing. The issue of traveller sites is, to a large extent, governed by things outside of the local plan. The issue that was at stake is we know that there is a shortage of traveller sites throughout the county of Essex, and that it is quite likely that a number of districts, and Braintree may be one of them, will be asked to find additional traveller sites. We were hoping, had we have got these new communities, to place some of those traveller sites within those communities. As those communities won't be there, they will, if we are asked to do more, they will have to go within existing communities. That's the only point on that. But we will need to wait and see in terms of what the final thought is on the availability of traveller sites. So I hope that's that. On the issue about whether we should withdraw the local plan, I must remind the council that this was a partnership of 4 authorities, 3 planning authorities and 1 strategic authority, namely Essex County Council. And it is clear that it's all in or all out. So if anybody wanted to withdraw the plan, it would mean the other authorities would also have to withdraw the plan. The government have said that everybody is to have a local plan in being by 2023. And at that time, and I think it is still policy, they would take, I didn't say exactly what sort of disciplinary action, for want of a better word, but authorities that didn't have a local plan in being probably would have one imposed upon them. And if we were to withdraw at this stage and have to start again, I think, as our colleagues in Uttlesford will find out, it will be very difficult to get a new plan in being. So we are probably, I think, well advised to stick with the plan we have to get the Section 1 through, and then we will need to make some adjustments. And once the figure we are informed of the figure by the inspector, whether that is 716 or anything below it, pray that it isn't anything higher, but of course it could be, that we can move quickly then to our Section 2, suitably amended to take account of whatever the housing would be. So I think this looks forward. It keeps the good partnership working going, because that undoubtedly will have to continue. And when I make a statement later about local government reform, I think you'll see that will probably be the case even more. And also, I think the final recommendation of 7 to say, as Councillor Spray said, we don't want to build houses that aren't needed. If the houses aren't needed, we don't want to build them. And if the figures say that we are X hundred rather than Y, and X is lower, we will certainly support it. But what we can't afford to do is to go to the inspector with a figure that we know the figure will be challenged. It will be challenged, I suspect, by every developer around. I suspect they are crawling over the figures to go to the inspector to say, no, inspector, you don't need to bring them down there. You ought to do this, that, or the other. So we've got to go with a robust argument. Councillor Spray has shown you the situation in Harlow, where they thought they could just write back and say, no, we're quite happy. We've got to go back with it. Hopefully by this Friday, we will have a good idea of what we can go back with. And I very much welcome Councillor Spray's offer to discuss that also with the group leaders, because I really would like, if possible, may not be possible, but if it is possible, to go back with a joint agreement as to what figure we should. I don't think we want to suggest a figure. We might have to say to the inspector, there are a couple of options. You, inspector, will have to determine it. But let us see later this week what comes out. But I would hope very much that we can go forward as a united council as far as possible. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Butland. Councillor Tom Cunningham wants to say something too.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Can I just add my support to the recommendations that have come from the Local Plan Subcommittee tonight? And can I actually applaud Councillor Abbott for his unique flexibility demonstrated this evening on this matter. He's gone from a position of wanting a reduced West Tay to no garden communities to actually finding acceptance with the east of Colchester settlement. And Madam Chairman, isn't it quite remarkable how suddenly views change when the major development in your doorstep is no longer likely to occur? It's remarkable how views change. It's remarkable how flexible some people can be. But I actually want to deal with this point about the local plan being chucked out. It hasn't been chucked out. Obviously, there have been recommendations for quite significant changes, and we acknowledge that. We acknowledge that with a hint of regret. I, for one, Madam Chairman, are saddened that £272 million of housing infrastructure funding is no longer available for the A12 in North Essex. This is considerable investment that was on the table from a Conservative government to help level up and power up our local economy. It is sad that is no longer there. However, I express great pleasure that the East of Colchester initiatives, which have also been underpinned by significant housing infrastructure funding, can go ahead for the money that's been allocated for the Link Road appropriate to that development. I just also would like to speak briefly on the point about the housing numbers. As I said when I moved that recommendation at the local plan subcommittee, whilst this is a complex matter, I think we have to address the point that thinking one eye on the future, how we deal with strategic planning over decades to come, and not just a short-term view of a particular local plan period, was the right thing to do. But it doesn't mean an overwhelming desire to concrete over the countryside. This has been the criticism that has been flung at various members of this authority and others by those who oppose the approach that was taken. In fact, I think it's a view articulated by some of the forums of which we have commented on this evening. So, Madam Chairman, with that in mind, of course, I'm very happy to support the recommendations that are coming to full council and look forward to hopefully cross-party support.
Thank you very much. I've got a couple of other speakers. Councillor Abbott has requested a brief speech. Councillor Abbott?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I did so as I was named by several of the councillors, but since I've registered to speak, more of them have done so. So very briefly, yes, I think an entire army of straw men created there by some of the Conservative councillors. Councillor Spray mentioned options. Councillor Spray failed to mention options. She said, well, we were invited by the inspector to produce more evidence in 2018. What she didn't say was that was on the basis of the option her group had chosen. Councillor Pritchard said that the G&I group were wise after the event. I really think he should pay attention and go and have a look at the minutes of the full council, the local plan committee, and all the numerous times I stood up and members of our group stood up and raised concerns about the evidence, myself over a period of years, but certainly the G&I group since its formation last May. Councillor Butland said we shouldn't be looking back, and then did precisely that in some measure. He said that he named me and spoke about the single house issue, which I have been quoted on many times. The exact quote is, "Not a single house will be built in Braintree district as a result of the local plan section 1 going forward." That's in perpetuity. That's the point there. Councillor Cunningham mentioned my support for East of Colchester. That's a complete straw man argument. He will know, because he was at the same local plan committee I was, that the position I took is that we need to get section 1 done, because not to do so will produce 2 more years of delays, further speculative development. Therefore, in the circumstances, we are prepared, given that Colchester and Tendring are going to be the 2 councils that now decide the detail of East of Colchester, we were prepared to support a modified section 1, purely for the purposes of moving this forward. And I would have thought that he would have welcomed that collegiate approach. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hensman, it would be nice if you did give way. I think we are travelling quite strongly. And so I have next Councillor Butland.
I don't want to come back. I just want to, I didn't realise this was question time to Councillor Abbott, Madam Chairman.
Sorry.
And that you were going to allow that. But in the spirit, you know, I welcome what Councillor Abbott says. I very much, I'll reiterate it again, because I've got, if everybody's going to be allowed to come back with a second go, I think we'll come back as well.
Not everybody will.
I welcome the hope. I hope that, and I don't know what is going to appear on Thursday in terms of the figures, that we will be able to reach agreement on what goes forward. However, this administration won't shirk from taking decisions if they're needed to protect the best interests of the of the district and residents, both those that are in well housed and those that hope to be housed at some time in the future. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed we can go. Yes, I did go back, but I did say, in terms of, you know, we can all look back. Let's just look back a little bit, because we all have selective memory, and Councillor Abbott's selective memory is as good as my selective memory. So I just wanted to put on the record what actually happened. I think I've had my second share, Madam Chairman.
Yes, and no one gets a third one, let me tell you. Councillor Spray, you come back to us, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Just briefly, appreciate the support shown by Councillor Butland and Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Abbott, just to say, yes, the options given by the inspector, we chose to go back to him with the additional information and evidence that he had asked for, because this administration firmly believed in the garden communities, that it was the right way forward for development for this part of Essex. We stood by that decision. Just to say that, of course, the housing numbers, they're very fluid. The ones that we have got now, have been presented to us as an option, as I say, were based on 2016 to 18. Of course, now this year, we have the pandemic. We don't know what effect that COVID-19 is going to have on movements, population movements around the country or in and out of our district. People's way of working has changed and may stay changed. More people may decide they want to go on working from home. I think, and I apologise, I forget which councillor it was, mentioned, it might have been Councillor Pritchard actually, that people are looking towards moving out of the big cities and moving to more rural locations. So we may well find that we have a bigger influx of population into this district, and we will need to provide good quality homes and good quality infrastructure for them. But I will leave it there. I think it's been a good debate, perhaps a little more than we'd expected, but that's absolutely fine. I have moved the recommendations. They've been seconded by Councillor Euston, so I will stop there. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Spray, and thank you, everybody. It was a good debate. The recommendations are set out. The agenda...
Apologies, sorry, Chairman. Councillor Hensman would actually like to speak on this.
Councillor Hensman would like to speak?
Yes,
all right,
please.
Councillor Hensman.
Thank you.
Councillor Hensman.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Sorry, just had to get to the right screen. I only gave way from the point of view of maintaining the momentum of the debate, because I'm changing tact slightly in rising virtually for what I would call my pet subject, although it's my pet hate. What attracted me originally with the local plan was the infrastructure first. Now instead, I'm seeking assurances of what the alternatives are, because for the urban areas, of which I am one of the representatives, and I'm sure this will also apply to villages, developments will be shoehorned in with infrastructure already at or over capacity. I'm sure that other colleagues will agree with me and share my continued dismay at continuous development, be it speculative, permitted or otherwise. We just do not have the infrastructure to support this. So if I could please ask for some reassurance or explanation, please, as to what happens meantime. I'm only reassured that the ONS figures may reduce the number of houses required, but being complex calculations, may being the operative word, and I await these with anticipation. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman.
Right, Councillor Spray, would you just like to come back on that?
Yes, I will, just briefly. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Hensman. Well, I and many others share the concerns about speculative development, especially around our villages and actually around our 3 towns. What we need to do is to get Section 1 found sound, which hopefully we will do this autumn. We can then move on to Section 2, which concerns our local plan policies, and that will give protection. In the meantime, of course, there is absolutely nothing to stop planning applications coming forward. And obviously, there may not be the infrastructure that we would like to have seen had we gone down the route that this administration wanted to with the garden communities. But, you know, be assured the planning committee will do their best to fend off unwanted developments on sites where we don't want them. But, you know, as soon as we get Section 2 found sound, the better. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. Now, I don't have anybody else who's wanted to speak, and it has been a fairly lengthy and a very interesting debate. So the recommendations are set out on page 11. They've been moved and seconded, and we'll be using a poll for the vote. So as usual, a screen will appear which each member can see. There it is, but it's not available to the public to see via the YouTube channel. Members, I'll be assisted by the meeting's facilitator to confirm the vote result before I formally announce the decision on this recommendation. When it appears on your screen, members, please do vote. I find that's 100%, and that is unanimous. Recommendations have been approved. Thank you, Councillor Mrs. Spray and members. So we'll now go to item 9, which is the progress report on the work undertaken so far by the Climate Change Working Group and a revisit schedule for production of the strategy. This is set out on pages 116 to 123 of your agendas. And I would like to invite Councillor Mrs. Wendy Schmidt, who's the Cabinet Member for Environment and Place, to introduce the report. Members are reminded that this report is for noting only. Therefore, I'll be seeking your agreement, and silence will be your assent. So, Mrs. Schmidt, do please present the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, colleagues. You have the paper before you, but please could I draw your attention to a change in the actual members of the committee. Due to the change of Greenfields into Eastlight, Richard Gormley has now been replaced by Charlotte Todd, my apologies. Before the committee was formed, we knew that the council already had a good record, and we were in fact in the process of updating our present climate strategy and action plan. And some of the projects that we'd already achieved before then was the installation of 1.5 megawatt of solar panels across the estate. We'd reduced carbon emissions across our estate and services by 55% since 2006. We had put in electric car charging points for staff and public at our main sites. We'd operated a domestic installation and boiler replacement scheme since 2004, which has resulted in over 1,000 installations. We'd put cycle storage facilities in at sites and the staff salary bike purchase scheme. And of course, we'd moved a vast majority of our services of payment online, avoiding customers having to need the council offices. Also, if you look at page 66, you will see that many other projects had been carried out very successfully. At our first meeting in October, the group decided that the subject matter of climate change was so broad, it would need to concentrate its time looking at those areas where the council could make a significant difference or to have the largest influence. And to that end, you will see on page 63 the subject headings that the committee agreed to look at in detail. In December, we had the project of the council assets and natural environment, and in February, resources and energy use. And again, in the paper, you will see all the different subjects that came up. We've had absolutely excellent presentations from the people who were invited to come. But sadly, of course, due to the pandemic, our next meeting had to be delayed. Anyway, this took place 2 weeks ago, and this was the planning and development meeting. And again, excellent presentations were given. As always, we then had question and answer sessions and then roundtable discussions on the actions arising from the presentations. You will see that, my apologies, so many pieces of paper. Also, something that then cropped up that wasn't planned and wasn't foreseen was in July that Mark Wilson, our sustainability manager, and I were invited, along with all the other Essex authorities, to a meeting of the Essex Climate Action Commission. What was very nice about this was that Braintree was one of the 2 authorities that was asked to give a presentation of what we are doing to the Commission. And this was extremely well received. And we have already, this has already led to requests for cross-border working with other authorities, which is a very positive outcome for us. Sadly, due to the pandemic, so much of the good work that we'd already done has been undone due to the millions of pieces of the PPE that have had to be used, most of which is non-recyclable, beer glasses with lids, and the so-called disposable barbecues who seem to be disposed of in parks and fields. And I found this very, very disappointing. We'd worked so hard on litter, and for some reason or other, it is suddenly seemed perfectly acceptable to dispose of all of this stuff in an incorrect manner. Some of you may have seen in the press pictures of rivers and oceans already full of masks and other PPE things, even to the point in the national press, a picture of a juvenile gull in Colchester with a face mask wrapped around both of its legs. I truly despair. We all have to use these things. Why some people seem to think it's perfectly acceptable to just drop them wherever is quite beyond me, but it is something, again, that the committee will work very hard and hope to change. So, as I said, you have the report before you. The recommended decision is to note the progress of the Climate Change Working Group, and 2, to note the revised schedule of meetings and approve the new date for the delivery of the new strategy and action plan. Happy to take questions, Madam Chairman.
Apologies, Chairman, your microphone switched off.
Thank you. Sorry about that, everybody. I'm on a different computer. Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Thank you, Councillor Schmidt. Do any members wish to speak on this item? If you do, please indicate by the chat function, and I'll take each member in turn as they appear. Have I got... I think I've got Councillor Abbott, haven't I? Yes, I have. Councillor Abbott?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We understand the reasons for the revised timetable and look forward to the final report. The Climate Change Working Group is fully supported, including issues such as reducing waste, adapting to climate change and protecting our environment, which should, of course, include good air quality for our residents. The Climate Change Commission underway at Essex County Council is also a positive step, and it is promising, as the Cabinet member stated, that the BDC and ECC processes can be complementary, and as previously stated, I'm on that commission. However, the good work could be undermined by a major development in this district. The EA has now granted the proposed Rivenhall Airfield Waste Incinerator a permit to operate with a 35-metre stack, reversing their original refusal at this height, and this council agreed to oppose the incinerator at the full council meeting of February this year. So the decision flies in the face of many of our aspirations, including those I just stated, to say the very least. In the context of the climate change agenda specifically of this council, if built, this incinerator is so big, it would burn almost 600,000 tonnes of waste a year, all of it coming in by road with up to 404 HGV movements a day. It would generate approximately 500,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide per annum, equivalent to 120,000 additional cars, each doing 8,000 miles a year. It would expose residents to lower air qualities, including particles and a range of gases, and it would burn valuable resources and yet at the same time produce toxic ash that has to be disposed of. So, my question, Madam Chairman, in these circumstances, would the Cabinet member take this opportunity to explain why she apparently did not vote to oppose the incinerator at the meeting of the Council in February, and how this incinerator, if built, would impact on the work of the Climate Change Group in advancing a sustainable future for Braintree District? Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. I've got some speakers lined up. Councillor Schmidt, would you like to take questions after each one, or would you like to wait to the end?
I'll take them in each one, Madam Chairman.
All right, we'll start with that one then, please.
Non-recyclable rubbish has got to go somewhere. Sadly, there will always be things that cannot be recycled, and we have to be realistic that we cannot continue to keep putting them in the ground forever. You cannot just give a blanket dislike of these buildings, because things have to go somewhere. At present, some of our non-recyclable material is incinerated, and the electricity that is produced is reused. So it is a cycle. They're not all bad. We cannot just keep filling the earth with things that need to be recycled, that cannot be recycled. And so we may not like them, but unless someone can come up with a better idea of what to do with the residual waste, we have to look at other options.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Unsworth is next.
Apologies, Chairman. Councillor Butland has asked for a point of order, so therefore we must give way. Thank you.
Councillor Butland, your point of order.
Madam Chairman, I just want to make sure I'm on the same paper and the same discussion. I thought we were on agenda item 9, where we're being asked to note the progress of the Climate Change Working Group and to note the revised schedule of meetings and approve the new date for the delivery of those new strategy and action plan. Am I right, Madam Chairman?
Yes, that's right.
Could I therefore move the recommendation?
You can. So, I have been asked if other members wish to speak on this item. We are debating what to do here. So I think that I'm going to take, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to take extremely brief comments from people extremely brief. All right. I've only got 2 other people lined up. Can you please be really brief in what you're going to say? So Councillor Unsworth, please be really brief.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It was just a very quick one. A while ago, we noted that we would do more to plant trees. I know the trees are on there, and we would work with authorities and things around us. I guess that we haven't managed to do that, and I wonder if Councillor Smith would like to give an update as to what progress that would be, because we haven't done any work on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ball, extremely brief, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, it was on the diary date for subject to discussion transport. I was just wondering whether the group was planning to work with other council groups, because obviously buses are a major producer of pollution, and whether we can work together with other.
Right, I'm going back to Councillor Schmidt. We are only going to be noting this. This isn't a huge debate. Councillor Schmidt.
Thank you. As Councillor Unsworth, you could have asked this question as you are a member of the committee. You could have asked this question 2 weeks ago. We have planted trees everywhere within Braintree district that we have space for, because that has been my passion ever since I've been a member of this council. I didn't have to wait for a climate change meeting to get those things done. So rest assured, where we've had spaces, we've put in trees, not just trees, shrubs, bulbs, everything possible, because it's my passion. Councillor Bohr, as I said on page 63, we do have to limit ourselves, because it's such a huge subject, to those things that we can actually try and make a significant difference to. But because we have been invited to the Essex Climate Action Commission, we are already, as I said, within that process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now this is, I'm saying it again, this report is for noting only. So now I'm going to take silence as agreement. Do I take it that you have all noted this report?
Chairman, Councillor Walsh has asked to speak on this item, please.
Just in a sentence, may I please, Madam Chairman?
Yes, one sentence.
I'm slightly concerned that the second objective is unduly modest. It says as far as practical, and then it sets a deadline by 2030. I hope it could be a little bit more ambitious. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'm going back. We're noting this report. I'm going to take silence to say that it's been noted. And I am taking that we have noted it. There has been silence. Thank you very much, everybody. Now we're going to item 10, which is independent person. You all got that? It's set out on pages.
Excuse me, apologies, Chairman. It is now 9:45.
Right.
You do have 3 items of business to conclude for this evening. Could I ask whether you would wish to consider extending the meeting and put members moving standing orders, please?
Well, I think we will extend them. It's safer.
Could you please put that request to members?
Yes. Does everybody else think that? You can.
Madam Chairman.
You're agreeing. Why don't you all put your hands up if you agree? That's good. Fine. We're all going to go over standing orders, okay? So now we're going.
Chairman, did you also wish to offer the members the opportunity to have a comfort break?
Oh, yes. Now, let me tell you that it's quite chilly in this room, and I'm extremely keen to have a comfort break. Would you all like a quick comfort break? Hands up if you want one. Hands up if you want one. Yes, I think I'm seeing more hands than no hands. Okay, so I'm not going to give you very long. I'm not going to give you 10 minutes. You've got 5. You'll be comfortable after just 5. Okay.
Could the webcasting officer please adjourn the YouTube broadcast at 20? YouTube channel, please.
We've restarted.
Thank you very much. Thank you, members, for allowing us to take that short adjournment. It is now 21:52. I will now hand the meeting back over to the chairman, and we are about to proceed with agenda item 10. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me and see me? Yes, good. This item is set out, item 10, set out on pages 124 to 128 of your agendas. I would like to invite Councillor Bebb, the Cabinet Member for Finance and Performance Management, to introduce this report and to move the recommendations set out on page 124 of the agenda. So, Councillor Bebb, can you please present your report? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Because of the late hour, I'll be extremely succinct. Under the 2011 Localism Act, it's a statutory requirement that Braintree District Council have appointed an independent person to discharge the statutory role in relation to any complaints received by the council under the council's code of conduct. So the recommendation is in two parts. The first one is to approve the extension of the independent person, Tony French, whose original term until the next AGM in 2021 at the rate of £300 per annum. He was appointed a few years ago. He hasn't had much to do. This will extend his term to help us out till we get a full appointment. And secondly, to approve the commencement of a recruitment process no later than January 2021 for one independent person and up to 2 reserves independent persons. To do this, we want approval for the establishment of a committee comprising the chairman and 2 members of the corporate governance group to deal with the recruitment process of the independent person and reserve independent persons before making a recommendation to full council, and to delegate authority to the monitoring officer in conjunction with the chairman of the corporate governance group and the cabinet member for finance and performance management to determine the remuneration and expenses for the independent person and any reserve independent persons as part of the proposed recruitment process. I so move, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bebb has moved the recommendations set out on page 124 of the agenda. Can I please now have a seconder?
I second that, Madam Chairman. Councillor Dervish.
Thank you.
And I reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Do any members wish to speak on this item? If you do, please indicate by the chat function, and I'll take each member in turn as they appear. I have got Councillor Abbott first up.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just very briefly, I'm wondering about the way the wording structured on some of these paragraphs. It looks as if we're voting to extend Tony French in the first one. Should that not be approved the extension of the term of and then reword? And then also in 814 it says cabinet meeting. I think it should be cabinet member.
Okay. Right. I think those are accepted.
Councillor Bebb, yes?
I think we accept those changes.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody else who'd like to speak? I don't have anybody else, probably due to the increasingly later hours. So if no one else wishes to speak, I am going to take it that this is concluded and we can now proceed to the vote. The recommendations set out on page 124 have been moved and seconded. We'll be using a poll for the vote, and the screen has appeared already, which each member can see, but it's not available to the public on YouTube channel. So I'll be assisted by the meeting's facilitator to confirm the vote result before I formally announce the decision on this recommendation. The members, would you now please vote on your screens? I take that as having been approved. I think we're 1 member absent, so that might be accounting for that, but it's showing me 98% for. Yes? So, sorry? It's 1 abstention. Oh, I see. The abstention has now come up. Yes, thank you very much. So I'm going to take that the recommendations have been approved. Thank you, Councillor Bebb. And we'll now go to item 11, which is a Cabinet report to full Council.
Chairman, you have an urgent item of business which you are to deal with next. So this is the urgent item that was
Oh, that's the
circulated.
urgent item coming in now.
Yes, it is. So
Yes.
it's the urgent item on the phased reopen of leisure provision. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, for this item as well, you've got Councillor Dean Wallace to leave for this item. Could I invite you to allow Councillor Wallace to leave for this part of the meeting? He'll be retiring for the remainder of the meeting and not returning to the meeting following the completion of this item.
Right. Has Councillor Wallace gone? Can you say?
Thank you. Good evening.
Have you gone? Yes.
Councillor Wallace has left.
Gone. So members, this is an urgent item. It's the phased reopening of the leisure provisions. This urgent item report was circulated on Friday. This report is presented this evening by Councillor Peter Tattersley, who is the Cabinet Member for Health and Wellbeing, and Councillor David Bebb, who is the Cabinet Member for Finance and Performance Management. So can I now invite Councillor Tattersley to introduce this report and to move the recommendation as set out in the report. Thank you, Councillor Tattersley.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Whilst this report is primarily a finance report, I wanted to put the Council's provision of leisure facilities, particularly swimming pools, into an overall context. Before we hear the details about a possible financial support to our leisure provider, Fusion, I wanted to confirm that there were a number of other options that we considered before making this recommendation. These included closing one or more of the centres, re-tendering the leisure contract to another provider, bringing the service back into house, or partner with another authority. In my opinion, the risks and potential costs involved in any of these options are significantly higher than providing direct financial aid to Fusion. My colleague, the Cabinet Member for Finance and Performance Management, will outline the details of the financial aid after I've finished. Up to the lockdown due to COVID earlier this year, our leisure centres were showing a significant increase in users. In February 2020, the last 4 months before lockdown, over 93,000 people used the centres, a year-on-year increase of 25%. In a full year, up to August 2019, the number of visits exceeded 1 million, and that trend looked set to continue. In fact, at times during last summer, the number of people hoping to use the pools had to be rationed because of the sheer number of people. When we prepared the contract documents, the Council used the opportunity to impose contract conditions to ensure that the availability of the centres for unrepresented groups in a way that would not be possible with privately funded centres. As a result, we've seen significant increase in the centre use by the over 60s and under 16s group, two groups which the Council wanted to target in its strategic objective, which is centred around living longer, more independently, and to tackle obesity in children. 3,198 children were enrolled in the Swim School project, and there were 6,500 attendees spanning 15 new mental health and disability community groups using the centres. A further benefit I'd like to highlight is the availability of facilities for those living with mental illness or physical disability to enjoy the sense of freedom that swimming can bring, such as the floor which moves up and down at Whittam, wheelchair hoists and specially adapted changing areas. In a wider context, the benefits of public, accessible, reasonably inexpensive, clean and safe swimming pools are extensive. Madam Chairman, I've received a lot of correspondence, not all of them polite, about why our pools were not available for use as soon as the government announced the go-ahead to open. In fact, according to the Daily Mail, only 330 out of 1,657 centres have opened so far, and it does cost an awful lot to reopen a centre that's been closed for several months, particularly when, or especially when the operators have had absolutely no income. In anticipation of approval being given tonight, some staff are being prepared to be released from furlough, redecoration is planned for reception and gym areas, contractors are being lined up to carry out the necessary health and safety compliance checks,
the gyms and swimming lanes are being reconfigured to ensure social distancing, the installation of one-way systems with signage, hand sanitizer locations identified, and testing of the heating, disinfectant and air circulation systems. I feel sure that the government will eventually bring forward some financial support for leisure centre operators, but in the meantime, I urge members to support the financial package that we're putting forward tonight. I'm now happy to hand over to Councillor Bebb, who will provide some detailed financial details.
Yes, Councillor Bebb.
Thank you, Councillor Tattersley. Yes, up and down the land, all councils are in this situation. The issues experienced by Fusion are part of a national leisure crisis. The estimated cost of Fusion's phased mobilisation plan is £612,000 for August to March, which includes monetary support of £483,000 and a waiver of the management fee for the remainder of this financial year, with a further cost to the authority, that is lost income, of £128,800. So the support is required. Why? Well, due to the need to adopt social distancing measures, resulting in reduced capacity of the leisure centres, and also the anticipated reduction in customer participation, and so income as estimated using figures provided by the UK Active in the COVID-19 impact report, the fitness and leisure industry's path to recovery. So we've requested a provision of £700,000 to enable drawdown in support of Fusion between August 2020 and March 21. This is funded by transfer of unallocated balance. One is £5.1 million for this transfer, and to meet any other net shortfall in costs of the pandemic not recovered by government support. Now, it's acknowledged that it may take a bit longer for consumer confidence to return and for COVID restrictions to reduce. Therefore, financial support may change during the remainder of this year and may be also required beyond this period. The need to remind ourselves once again of the experience by Fusion are part of a national leisure crisis. This has been recognised, and a bid made by HCLG and DCMS, that's the Department for Digital, Cultural, Media and Sport, for a support package for the leisure industry to HM Treasury. Now, if successful, the bid will grant funding to offset the budget impacts detailed in this paper. We don't know how long it will be till we get the result of that bid, but it's anticipated it might be within the next 2 to 3 weeks. A bit of further background. Up to 7 years ago, our leisure management provider was DT Leisure, and we were having to pay them £850,000 per annum management fee to run the service. At the retendering stage, we appointed Fusion Leisure, and as a registered charity with tax and including VAT advantages, they offered a financially far more attractive operating model where they have been paying us a management fee of 16.1k per month. However, as a registered charity operating over 80 different sites for 16 authorities, they have little financial reserves. And with a sudden and catastrophic near total loss of income, they were facing near total financial collapse. So as Councillor Tattersley said, we painstakingly appraise options facing us, including closing centres, reprocure another provider, partner with another town leisure group, or in-source leisure. And each option represented really significant disadvantages. Thus, the strategic logic was clearly in favour of supporting Fusion. And this was the conclusion of the other 15 local authority Fusion customers. Members, we're between a rock and a hard place. It's a difficult decision, but we don't have many options. I so move the recommendations, or the recommendation given, or it doesn't have a page number, but it's when you turn over, I think, onto page 5, that the full council is recommended to approve the provision of.
Are you seconding this, Councillor Bebb?
I'm proposing the motion on page 5, top of page 5. Full council is recommended to approve provision of up to £700,000 for the future drawdown in support of Fusion remobilisation costs between August 2020 and March 2021. Funding to be provided by transfer from the Council's unallocated balance. I so move, Madam Chairman.
All right, thank you very much.
I'll second that, Madam Chairman.
All right, you do it that way. Thank you very much then. So now Councillor Abbott has moved the recommendation as set out in the report, and Councillor Tattersley has seconded it. Do any members wish to speak on this item? I have got some lined up, indicating by the chat function, and I think I saw Councillor Abbott. Have you removed yours, Councillor Abbott? Councillor Abbott?
No, I didn't request on this one, Madam
You
Chairman.
didn't? All right. Thank you. Councillor Santamoro's next.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We've always been a leading authority in recognising the benefits of activity on physical and mental well-being, championing the Live Well campaign, promoting activity and investing in facilities for this purpose. So it's for this reason that I and many residents of the district seem to be quite frustrated with the current situation. So I do have quite a number of questions. So I don't know if the Cabinet members want to take them one at a time, or if you just want me to blitz through them and then respond at the end. I don't know what your preference is.
What do you fancy doing, Councillor Tattersley and Councillor Bebb? Would you rather wait to the end and we'll just get through everything and see if you cover the whole lot in one?
Yeah, I think
yes, let's do it like that.
Yes, let's try it.
So
let's
thank you. So my next speaker, so Councillor Santamoro, go on then.
Okay, so have Fusion been as terrible at communicating with BDC as they have with their staff and members? Secondly, on the 5th of June, Fusion members received an email saying, "We're busy behind the scenes getting the centre ready for your return, creating a fresh, spacious, safe and sociable environment so you have a great time. We'll be sending you regular updates between now and the opening so you know exactly what will be available and how to get the best out of your visit." So what exactly have Fusion been doing whilst closed for them not to be ready to open now? With other gyms having been able to open on Saturday the 25th of July, people are asking, why not you? Why is it that other leisure facilities that are also run by third-party leisure providers for other local authorities opened 2 days ago and Fusion have not? What is it that makes our gyms so different that Fusion have not been able to use the 4-month lead time to ensure that particularly those who need access to exercise facilities in a safe space can get back to being active sooner rather than later? Thirdly, are the redundancies which have been advertised still going to take place if the council agree to the funding request this evening? And as part of information in the press, it has come about that fitness instructor positions may be terminated and that those positions may be replaced by so-called leisure professionals. That is to say, individuals who are not qualified at all in physical activity and health. If this is the case, are we not putting users at risk by not ensuring a minimum retained level of fully qualified health and fitness experts are employed at any given time who are always available to assist with technique, safety and health concerns and queries? My next question, if funding is agreed tonight, are we simply delaying the inevitable? How confident are we, or how confident can we be, that Fusion will remain solvent as well as not return to us cap in hand for more funding? Are we simply throwing good money after bad? When do we say enough is enough? If funding is agreed tonight, how is it proposed that we as a council retain security over funds advance in the event of it becoming apparent that Fusion cannot remain solvent? Or is it the case that officers from BDC will scrutinise Fusion's operations closely on a very regular basis? My next question, Fusion say they're working... How
many more are there?
2. So Fusion...
Madam Chairman, could I just come in? This is a debate, it is not question time.
Right.
I think these questions would be better because they're very detailed questions and it would be, I think, inappropriate this time of night to expect. So could I suggest that the member puts them in writing and then the Cabinet members can respond, making sure that the answers are copied to all members of the council?
Yes, Councillor Butler, I think that's a very good idea. What I was going to go on to say, and I did hint at that a little earlier, was that everybody, well, those councillors who still have any kind of questions, ask them all now. And it might be that when Councillor Tattersley and Councillor Bebb make their responses, those answers are dealt with. Or, yeah, I'm going to go on. So I've got Councillor Bowers next, and then at the end, at the very end, we will decide, Councillor Bebb and Councillor Tattersley, whether you've obviously made notes, whether you want to write a full answer to everybody, or whether you want to just make a brief response as we end up now. So I'm going to go first now that everybody's been apprised of my wishes. I'm going to go now to Councillor Bowers. I've got really quite a long list now. Councillor Santamora, you had some more, but I think, would you mind if we move on now? And you might get the answers. All right, so I want Councillor Bowers, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, just in regards to this item and the recommendations before us, and it's just along the lines of that this may not be the end of the financial support that we may be asked for, that though even if it is, can I just ask and just make sure that the council will be monitoring what and where this money will be spent? Thank you.
Fine. Thank you very much. And it is good to have comment. Councillor Butland makes a very strong point here. So Councillor Walsh is next, perhaps with a comment maybe.
Madam Chairman, can I just answer that question while it's going? There is an open book exercise where council officers will be monitoring. Yes, there's an open book exercise where the council officers will be monitoring all the spending to keep so it's not being wasted. Okay.
Thank you. So Councillor Walsh then. A comment, hopefully.
A comment indeed in Graham Butland's spirit of his remarks. I appreciate the report and the difficulty, but I'm genuinely concerned at the level of the sum, £700,000, and I'd be slightly reluctant to take a quick decision at this hour at night. I'd prefer if it could be deferred to committee or to a report to group leaders, for example. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Councillor Ritchie, hopefully the same thing.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Actually, to speak in support of the recommendation. Obviously, an outlet like Fusion is vital for communities.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Are you done?
Chairman, I'm sorry, you cut Councillor Ritchie off. Councillor Ritchie, there is a slight interference on your feed. Would you like to turn your camera off and, with the permission of the chairman, to ask that question again, because it was distorted?
Right.
Okay, how's it now? Does it sound better?
It does, thank you.
Thank you. Purely just to support the recommendation that's here before us this evening. Obviously, communities have had a long period, extended period, without a provision for health and fitness within our communities. And we assist with and to enable that phased return, to enable that to be back, to begin back to our communities as a fitness offering. So, fully supported with the recommendation that's before us this evening.
Thank you. Councillor Unsworth, a comment from you might we have, please?
Yeah, it was just to let everybody know that as Chair of Performance Management, I was contacted by the monitoring officer to say that this would be a quick process, that there was no time for the official consultation process, and that I agreed that that was acceptable and would not go through the Performance Management Board under those rules. I'm not sure of the exact number of days, but I think there's a number of days for consultation period on this, so that I agreed that that would be acceptable. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Parker. Well, it's a question. Is it hopefully brief?
Sorry, I'm going to turn it into not so much, less of a question, more of a comment. Yes, no, and I will be brief. Yes, obviously, leisure centres are extremely important to everybody, particularly swimming pools, which are probably not as financially viable in the private sector. Obviously, it is an alarming sum of money, but I do realise that we're not alone in this as a council, and I know that lots of other councils are finding their leisure contracts really, really draining on their resources at this time because they've had to close. I agree. This is a very, very difficult. The council's in a very difficult position regarding this, but I would hope that now that the restrictions on gyms have been lifted, that there will actually be quite a big demand to come back to the gym. And I do think it's important that our leisure centres open as soon as possible, because otherwise residents will turn to private gyms rather than supporting our own leisure centres. I wanted to ask, my question really was going to be about monitoring of the finances, but I think I've just been reassured by Councillor Bebb's comments about the sort of open book exercise and monitoring the spending. I would very much hope that the revenue will turn out to be not as depressed as expected. So I'm reluctantly really to support this. Will support that recommendation, but with some reluctance given the amount of money involved. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. Now, I'm not going to go for second speeches, so if I've got it right that Councillor Walsh wanted to speak again, I'm going to keep us all to just one. I have Councillor Ramage next.
Thank you, Chair. It's a very short question.
Can you turn it into a comment?
Yeah, just a comment under the heading of item 2.3 on the summary, total monetary relief. We make reference to April, May and June as far as 167,000.4. But is there a figure also for the rest of, i.e. July up to the 25th, which is where things change? Is there going to be a figure for that period? That's all it is. Thank you very much.
Right, now I'm going to go back. Thank you very much. There's nobody else who's wanting to speak, but I want to refer back to Councillor Tattersley and Councillor Bebb. How would you like to play this now? Would you like to make any quick responses now, or would you rather put it in a letter?
I think a letter, but there are one or two things that we need to answer at this moment.
Go then.
And Councillor Walsh's reticence to make a decision now, I understand that, but Fusion need an answer, but unless they've got an agreement in principle from the council, they will go under. So we can't leave, and this decision has to be made by full council. The next full council meeting is not till September. Now, if we leave it till then, they'll be dead. So we have to make a decision in principle to grant that allocation tonight.
Councillor Tattersley?
Yes, I was going to say more or less what Councillor Bebb said. It has to be a council decision. It's not one that can be delegated. It's not one that can be delegated down. And I have to say that none of us are happy with the sums of money, but the alternatives are far more difficult. And I think in the longer term, they'll either result in leisure centres being closed down or significantly higher costs. And of course, the government may still announce support for the leisure industry. It hasn't announced any funding for that at this stage, and there's a lot of lobbying going on. So the figures that we've got here might be substantially different once the government announce anything about support.
So thank you very much. So you will both be giving a written response then?
Yes, but that's I think the only way forward.
Wonderful.
This time of the evening.
All right. That's lovely. Thank you very much. Councillor Pritchard has come in a bit late, but he wants to make an observation. Go on then, quickly.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to raise my concerns with regard to the second risk and the fact that if other local authorities choose not to support Fusion, we could be throwing money in and actually, not seeing any return on that. I wondered if there was any way, and you don't have to answer this now, of us being able to understand what other local authorities' decisions are being made in relation to Fusion and whether we could get a feel for the general feeling from similar authorities to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's a good point that Councillor Pritchard makes.
Councillor Bebb, come in.
It's a very good point he makes, and I might say that we're in, I think, almost daily contact with many of the other councils. We're working together. We do not want to be the one that sinks, and we're going to be in contact with their we're working forward. So yes, we'll seem to be reluctant, but saying there's only one pragmatic way forward, and that is to support it. Otherwise, the result is that we lose Fusion, and it's going to be far more expensive to start up with another provider.
All right. Well, thank you very much. There is nobody else on there now, so we're now going to proceed to the vote for this. which I understand is quite
Can I just
tricky.
add one point?
Yes.
Madam Chairman? This is to agree in principle for the allocation of up to £700,000. The detail of this will be pursued at Cabinet meeting next Friday, the drill down to the detail.
All right. Thank you very much. Members are all with it. The recommendations are set out in the report, have been moved and seconded, and we'll be using a poll again for the vote. So the screen will appear, which each member can see, but it's not available to the public on the YouTube channel. And I'll be assisted by the meeting's facilitator to confirm.
Apologies, Chair. Sorry to interrupt you, Chairman, but you have frozen. Can you just please bear with us for one moment? Apologies, members. We're just having a technical issue with the Chairman's computer. Just if you would mind just bearing with us as we try to resolve this. The Chairman was about to put the matter to the vote. The vote hasn't been yet. Sorry, the poll has been issued, so members can proceed to vote via the poll function. That will be examined by the meeting facilitator and will support the Chairman with the decision. So if you've not already voted, please poll now. Thank you.
Right, so I can confirm. Is it finished?
Madam Chairman, yes, it has. So
It has finished.
The votes for 37, against 1 and abstain 6.
Yes, so I can confirm that we have approved the recommendations. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. And that moves us on to item 11 on your agenda. And during this item, you may put questions to the leader. It's the Cabinet report to full council. All right. You may put questions to the leader relating to a portfolio, the powers and duties of the council or the district. Where a verbal response cannot be given in response to questions, then you'll get a written response, and that'll be issued by the relevant Cabinet member. We have allowed a period of an hour for this item. I may use my discretion to extend or limit this period, but I'd be grateful for members' cooperation to be concise and not to repeat the same comment. So I'm now going to invite Councillor Butland as leader of the council to introduce this report. Councillor Butland, do you have anything that you wish to add to the report, which is set out on pages 129 to 139 of the agenda? Councillor Butland.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You may recall about 3 hours ago, I said I had a couple of announcements, but I would do them at the beginning of this. The first one is some really good news around potential government funding for Horizon 120. Members will be aware that the government allocated some £900 million to give the economy a boost and a kickstart and wanted shovel-ready schemes. Out of that 900 million, CELEP, and I have declared that I am a board member at CELEP representing district authorities throughout Essex, were awarded 85 million of that. That's to cover not only Essex, but Kent and East Sussex. And the federated boards of CELEP, which in the case of North Essex is Success Essex, were asked to put forward projects which had to meet a certain criteria, information about how many jobs they would create and were they shovel ready to go and all of that. And I'm delighted to say that Horizon 120 has gone forward as one of the, well, first of all, it went to government as for an initial thing. It was one they came back and said they were very interested in seeing. And we will now very quickly work up the full business case on that, and we're talking, if successful, of somewhere in the region of £7 million coming into that. So that's really good news. The second item is to forewarn members that there is a white paper coming out from government in September. I don't know exactly when in September yet, which I think will be one of the most radical papers for the reform of local government. I did brief all group leaders about it on our meeting last Thursday. The headline is it will be mayors everywhere, unitary authorities, and clearly in Essex a significant change possibly if this goes ahead. And if it does go ahead, it is likely to be within the next 2 years. So that is the headlines. We will have to wait and see whether the detail of that comes out in the white paper. I have been having discussions with fellow group leaders here in North Essex. By that, I mean the leaders of Tendring, Colchester, Malden and Chelmsford as to how we might approach that. And clearly on the 31st, that's this coming Friday, there is to be an Essex summit of all councils to discuss the situation. That may mean that next year's elections are postponed and that elections to any new authorities will be held in 2022. All of that at the moment is based on what is coming out. Some comments from ministers, but of course, ministers saying obviously can't confirm anything until the white paper is done. So we will wait for September, but by the time we next meet, we may have much more about it. And I just wanted to quickly appraise all members so that you are aware that potentially there is huge change coming to us in local government. That's all I have, Madam Chairman. I think if colleagues have any questions about any of the thing that's in the joint report, I know Councillor Cunningham will also, though, want to make a statement about more good news for Braintree and investment. Whether you want him to follow me now, Madam Chairman, and then take questions on everything after I leave to you.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Councillor Cunningham hasn't put his hand up or done anything. So, Councillor Cunningham, do you want to come next?
Sorry, Madam Chairman. Yes, if I may, thank you very much. And that's just to welcome the tremendous investment from government in the vaccine centre at Braintree. And this is fantastic news for that Braintree has been chosen as the location for a new state-of-the-art centre to manufacture millions of doses of the coronavirus vaccine. We totally appreciate that this initiative has the most serious objective in dealing with the international health crisis and in terms of our national response to it. Yet we hope in the long term, the social and economic benefits will be felt by our area for many years to come. We have so many innovative manufacturing and advanced manufacturing businesses in Braintree, and it's great that Benchmark Vaccine Limited at Springwood Industrial Estate, of which the council is a significant landowner, are able to aid the central government emergency response. It's also great for our economy to help and hope to retain and hopefully create new local skilled jobs for our residents. This allied to our investment in Horizon 120, which has the objective of creating 2,000 jobs. Companies that wish to come to Braintree, invest, move their premises here. If they have a successful growth trajectory, unlike other areas, we're not stifled by space. So successful initiatives in Braintree can come to Braintree and have space to grow. So it's very good news for our area, and we were delighted to hear the announcement last week. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Sorry, everyone. Hopefully you'll come with me tonight. We've definitely had gremlins in tonight. Councillor Abbott has indicated he'd like to ask two questions, one of Councillor Schmidt and one of, I've forgotten. Would you like to do that now, Councillor Abbott?
Yes, do you want me to ask them separately or all together?
Yes, that's what you indicated, wasn't it?
Yeah,
yes,
it'd be preferable separately. Okay, thank you. So
okay.
firstly to Councillor Bebb, can we say that we continue to support the work of the council and in cooperation with partners and volunteers in handling the very difficult COVID-19 situation? But following on from that, will he advise all groups on the council at the earliest opportunity, should the situation arise that we do face a large budget shortfall, currently in the region of in excess of £2 million, and in respect of the consequences of that on services? Secondly, to Councillor Bebb, does he think that the full-page local plan advert taken out on behalf of the leader at a cost of £650 plus VAT, published in the Braintree Whittam Times and the Houston Gazette, was a good use of public money?
Is that one question or two you've done now? Sorry.
That's two to Councillor Bebb, and then I've got two to Councillor Schmidt.
That's Councillor Bebb. Councillor Bebb, would you like to answer that,
Madam
or
Chairman,
would you
could I-
like to give a
Madam
written
Chairman,
answer?
Madam Chair, can I just point out the second question is actually, for me, it's in my portfolio, not in Councillor Bebb, so I'll be happy to take that.
Councillor Bebb? Councillor Bebb, are you with me?
Yes, on mute. On the first question, we will be monitoring matters very closely and in communication with and we will be obviously updating the members on if there are any changes that are foreseen. At the moment, we believe we've got a logical way forward. We've got consultants working with us who've given us a fair steer on where it's going. The ask at the moment is £700,000. We've got, as I mentioned, the reserves we've got is £5 million. We've had so much money back from the government so far for the COVID-19 expenses and loss of income. We've just had another tranche of just over 200,000 this last week. So our net down 2.5 million at the moment, but we're waiting for the results of some further allocation from the government in terms of loss of income. Now, often fees and the like. So we're waiting to get notification of how much we will get from that. And of course, we're also hopeful as a result of this joint bid to MCA, the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, and DCLG, that we will have some amelioration of the total of £700,000. I don't know how much we might expect from that, but we're hoping that for the best. So it should be better than we have allocated at the moment.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Councillor Abbott to come back and ask his second question, which is for Councillor Wendy Schmidt.
I believe Councillor Butland was going to answer the second part of my question.
Oh, really?
Councillor Bebb first.
All right, Councillor Butland?
Yes, by all means. If I've got it right, it's a question about the 600 odd pounds that was spent, and was that good value? The answer to that is yes. It was good value for two reasons. One, because it kept the local residents informed of what was going on, and secondly, it supported our local industry and our local newspapers. So excellent value for money.
Thank you. So now, would you like to ask Councillor Wendy Schmidt your question, Councillor Abbott?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. So we welcome the further green initiatives as outlined in the Cabinet Members' report, and especially the drinks carton spring banks, which, as the Cabinet Member will know, we called for. But do they provide the public with, and I quote from the Council Members' report, even more facilities to recycle, given that it is a partial replacement for a former full curbside collection service that used to be provided for every home? And my second question is, further to the question I asked to the Cabinet Member at a previous full Council meeting, why was the opportunity not taken for the Great Notley replacement floodlights to be best practice?
All right, Councillor Schmidt.
The first question is a matter of play on words. I'm sorry if you don't like the words. It did replace what we used to have. There, I've said it. As for the lights, I don't know. I'll have to give you a written reply on that.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, Councillor Weeks has been wonderfully patient.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just have a couple of questions to ask Councillor Schmidt. Firstly, I would like to say that we welcome the trial of a single cut for some of the rural verges in the district. I would like confirmation that that all parish and town councils in the district will be consulted in the autumn regarding the future programme? And will there be any further protection for wildflowers on verges in the future? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Weeks. I have said previously that we will be speaking to all the parish. There are no town councils within that area, but I have already said that will be done. And as for, I'm not quite sure what you mean. Are you saying, will it then be extended to the rest of the district? If that's the case, then that is my biggest desire, that this will happen.
Lovely.
Thank you. I lost you a little bit again there, but hopefully you both got on with it all right. Yes. And now I've got Councillor Unsworth, as well as a fly on my face. Councillor Unsworth. Councillor Unsworth?
Yeah, I think there's people freezing left, right and centre at the moment.
It's
a quick
isn't it?
one for Councillor Spray. I'd like to just bring
No, you
Woodhouse
can't-
Farm back up on her radar again. I haven't heard anything. I think this is now the third time of asking if we've got any progress on the
Have
enforcement
you
at
just
Woodhouse
asked a
Farm.
question? Yep.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I think there was a question in there from Councillor Unsworth. As Councillor Unsworth knows, this is an enforcement matter. I will see what information I can obtain from officers, but I think, as most members know, with enforcement matters, it is not normal practice or allowed actually to give sort of regular updates. But I will see what information I can find out, Councillor Unsworth, and if there is anything helpful I can let you know, then I will do so by way of a reply presently. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I have Councillor Walsh next.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is for the leader, and I'm happy for him to decide if it's a question or a comment. Would our leader not accept, after twice leading our council up the hill in search of 2 new towns, but then having to lead us straight back down again, and the inspector having found the policy twice unsound, would he not agree that he's perhaps beginning to develop a certain resemblance to the Grand Old Duke of York?
Right, who was that for? Sorry.
Right,
We're
it's
going
me.
in and out here.
It is a comment, and I treat it with the
Who
contempt
was
it
that for,
deserves.
Councillor Walsh?
I'll repeat that, Madam Chairman, just in case you spoke
Thank you.
across it.
Yes,
It is a
please.
comment, and I treat it with the contempt it deserves.
Right, I'm going to move on now to Councillor Rose.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, a question for Councillor Cunningham. Is the Cabinet Member for Economic Development able to give any indication of the current status of the large poultry factory on the Freeborns Industrial Estate, which currently stands empty? And I just wondered, are we aware of any progress regarding purchasing or marketing, particularly because the factory is possibly not suitable for other operations due to the current internal configuration? I just wondered what on earth we're going to do with that site. It employed a lot of people and it just stands empty.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, this is an issue that Councillor Rose has raised with me on a previous occasion. I'm sorry, I'm not able to give him a definitive answer at the moment. I will, of course, consult with economic development officers who have an ear to the ground on this sort of thing. And if I have any meaningful update, I'll certainly circulate through the written channels to all members. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Councillor Beavis next. Councillor Beavis.
Madam Chairman, I'll keep it brief. Following the announcement today from the Health Minister, Matt Hancock, MP, on the rising levels of childhood obesity, do we have any information on the levels of childhood obesity in the Braintree district due to the closure of many of our public open spaces and our leisure facilities? Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. And now I have Councillor Parker.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. It's a question for Councillor Tattersley. I was pleased to see reference to mental health in your report, and I just wanted to ask whether there are any specific programmes aimed at young people, particularly in the age range of about 18 to 22. I think this age group has been particularly badly affected by lockdown. The 18-year-olds have had their A-levels replaced by, well, I don't even know what it is now, and university plans have been disrupted, and young people find it very difficult to get jobs. And I suspect there are real built-up mental health problems building up within that age group. And I was just wondering, any of the programmes put forward are specifically directed at that age group. Thank you.
Right.
Um,
Councillor Tattersley, would you like to respond to that now?
Yeah, firstly on the childhood obesity one, it's an interesting one, that because we had quite a lot of statistics before the lockdowns started, and I'm afraid that a lot of what we've got might well be out of date, but I'll see what information is available and I will put that in writing. As to the mental health problems, I agree with you, and I agree with you entirely. I think we might need a meeting of our partners to clarify all that. We have regular health and well-being meetings with partners across the whole spectrum, and I think it might be worthwhile consulting with them to get that sort of information, because of course it applies to schools and the whole range of things. So I will get back, but it might not be tomorrow.
Right. Thank you very much. I have no further participants. I'll give you one last chance, but otherwise I am going to thank Councillor Butland and the Cabinet. This item concludes our business for this evening. It's been a very tough one. You've all been wonderful. No one's misbehaved. I'm really appreciative. Thank you ever so much. So thank you to all the members, the press and the public in attendance, and all those viewing on YouTube. How many did you say were viewing on YouTube? Did you say there were 52 people? Yes, about 52 people have been watching us. I'm sorry for my two laptops, which have not behaved as well as the members have. And we will do our best to rectify that. So I'm going to conclude the meeting at bang on 10:45, and I'm going to hand over the meeting now to our wonderful meetings facilitator. I have to say also, this is not possible to do it without them. They are absolute stars. So I'm closing the meeting at 10:45 and handing it over to the facilitator to conclude the closure of this meeting. Good night, everybody.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Members, thank you very much for bearing us with this evening, as we've experienced a few difficulties with our transmission, and thank you to our colleagues in taking the adjournments as we've required them. Before I ask the webcasting officer to terminate this YouTube broadcast, I'd urge members to complete the short survey, which we'll be emailing you shortly. It's very important that you complete this survey for us to continue to improve our meetings. I'd also like to remind you that the Council will retain performance data relating to your connection to this meeting this evening. This we retain for the purpose of dealing with any legal challenge in the way that we've held this virtual meeting this evening. Please can the webcasting officer confirm that the YouTube channel has now ceased its broadcast?